Married for 3 years, Scarlett Davenport thought she should have thawed Barnaby Ainsworth's cold heart by now. But when he forced her to kneel in the Ainsworth Ancestral Hall, Scarlett knew Barnaby didn't have a heart. And why hold on to a heartless man? So, when Barnaby gave her the choice between kneeling and divorce, Scarlett chose divorce without hesitation. Why waste her precious time on a jerk like Barnaby Ainsworth? Wouldn't it be better to go home, inherit her family's billion-dollar fortune, and live a fabulous life every day? Chapter 1. He didn't believe her today marked the 80th birthday of Augustus Ainsworth, the patriarch of the Ainsworth family in Linchester. The scene was bustling with guests, a truly lively affair. However, a sudden scream from the garden startled everyone present. Someone recognized the voice as belonging to Lydia Ashton, the widow of the Ainsworth's deceased eldest son, who was carrying his posthumous child. The Ainsworth family hurried towards the garden. 2 struggling figures in the outdoor swimming pool came into view. Before anyone could fully react, Barnaby Ainsworth had already jumped into the pool, pulling the floundering Lydia Ashton ashore. Only then did others snap into action. Security guards who had rushed over dove into the water and pulled Scarlett Davenport out. When Scarlett returned to the Ainsworth residence, soaked to the bone, the passing servants acted as if she were invisible. No one cared how she got back, nor did they care what state she was in. Having lived with the Ainsworths for over 3 years, Scarlett had long understood her position in the family was perhaps lower than the dog owned by Barnaby's younger sister, Beatrice. With Lydia involved in such a major incident, the entire Ainsworth family was now at the hospital. Scarlett went back to her room alone, changed her clothes, and took a shower. Drowsy and unwell, she was suddenly dragged out of bed by Barnaby. Recognizing him, Scarlett's eyes instantly welled up. "You're back. How is Lydia?" "Listen to me, Barnaby. I swear I didn't push her." Barnaby looked at her and scoffed coldly. "Save those words for grandfather." Scarlett snapped, fully awake, biting back the discomfort racking her body. "What do you mean, Barnaby?" He didn't even glance at her, simply dragging her towards the door. To the ancestral hall. Barnaby didn't want to exchange a single word with Scarlett. Not long after Lydia arrived at the hospital, the baby couldn't be saved. That was the only bloodline left by his older brother, and because of Scarlett, it was now gone, reduced to nothing. Augustus Ainsworth was furious. Having just returned from the hospital, he had ordered Barnaby to bring Scarlett to the ancestral hall immediately. Hearing Barnaby's words, Scarlett felt a chill run through her entire body. The Ainsworth Ancestral Hall. Having been married into the family for so long, how could she not know about it? Anyone who entered the Ainsworth Ancestral Hall faced severe consequences, if not death, then crippling injuries. She never imagined the Ainsworths wouldn't even listen to her explanation. Instead, ordering Barnaby to drag her there for family discipline, Scarlett looked at the profile of the man pulling her along sharply defined features. Such a handsome face. Yet since she married into the Ainsworth family, that face had never shown her a shred of kindness. The high fever made her miserable, but no one cared. Lydia had lost the baby, and now the Ainsworths, including Barnaby, probably wished they could skin her alive. Scarlett pulled her lips into a cool, faint smile. "I can walk myself." Barnaby glanced at her, his dark eyes filled with disgust and suppressed rage, but utterly devoid of pity or concern. "Hurry up." He dropped the emotionless command and turned, striding quickly towards the ancestral hall. Scarlett watched his retreating back, suddenly feeling like her past 3 years had been a complete joke. The ancestral hall ahead was brightly lit. Scarlett knew the Ainsworth family was waiting for her. "Kneel." As soon as Scarlett arrived, Augustus Ainsworth hurled a teacup directly at her. Scarlett stood her ground, neither servile nor defiant. "Why should I kneel?" She was right. Why should she kneel? Seeing her attitude, Augustus's face turned livid with anger. "Look at this. This is the person you brought into our family." Just as Scarlett was about to explain that she had done nothing wrong, Barnaby, standing beside her, suddenly pressed down hard on her shoulder. "Kneel." With his force, Scarlett was pushed straight down onto her knees. "Either kneel or we get divorced." Chapter 2, Don't let her get up until she admits fault. Barnaby. Even though she knew he wouldn't defend her, when his hand actually pushed her down, Scarlett felt a pain like a knife twisting in her heart. This was the man she had defied everyone to marry. She had thought that after 3 years, even the coldest heart would have been warmed by her efforts. Forced to kneel by Barnaby, the sharp pain in her knees was intense, yet it couldn't compare to the ache in her chest. She looked up at Barnaby beside her. The man's eyes beneath his sharp brows were fierce and merciless, his tightly pressed thin lips like daggers stabbing straight into Scarlett's heart. She had been naive. "Scarlett, do you admit you were wrong?" Hearing Augustus Ainsworth's voice, Scarlett looked over, straightening her back. "I didn't push her. I don't know what I did wrong." The moment she finished speaking, Augustus swept a vase off the table, smashing it right beside her. The vase shattered upon impact, pieces scattering everywhere. A fragment flew up, grazing the back of Scarlett's hand, leaving a bleeding scratch. "Unrepentant, you don't deserve to kneel in the Ainsworth ancestral hall and dirty our family's ground, drag her outside, make her kneel out there, until she knows she's wrong." After shouting, Augustus glanced at Barnaby. "Have someone watch her, don't let her get up until she admits her mistake." Augustus stormed off. Eleanor Ainsworth glanced at Barnaby, then walked over to Scarlett. "Scarlett, get up first. Grandfather is just angry right now." Eleanor was the only one in the Ainsworth family who had shown her some kindness. She had a gentle heart and felt that Scarlett, regardless of everything, was still part of the Ainsworth family now. Beside them, Beatrice Ainsworth sneered. "Mom, Grandfather clearly said Scarlett can't get up unless she admits she's wrong. You shouldn't get involved." Beatrice had always disliked Scarlett. Relishing the chance to see Scarlett suffer, she pulled Eleanor away after speaking. Eleanor sighed and looked towards Barnaby, who had remained silent. "Barnaby, what are you thinking? Scarlett has been your wife for 3 years, even if she didn't." Barnaby's eyes turned cold. "I don't have such a malicious wife." Scarlett trembled all over. She knew there was no point in explaining anymore. He had already decided what kind of person she was. Barnaby straightened up and delivered a final, ice-cold sentence. "You're on your own now, Scarlett." On her own, Scarlett listened as his footsteps faded away. Gradually, she heard something cracking within her own chest, piece by piece. Not long after Barnaby left, 2 Ainsworth maids approached. "Second young mistress, second young master said you should kneel outside." The 2 maids exchanged glances, then half-dragged, half-pulled Scarlett out of the ancestral hall, forcing her shoulders down to make her kneel again. Scarlett had never endured such humiliation. She looked up coldly at the 2 maids. "How dare you treat me like this?" However, the maids were unfazed. "Just kneel properly. Second young mistress Mr. Ainsworth SR has spoken. Unless you admit you're wrong, you'll be kneeling here all night. Behave yourself. And it's better for everyone." Just then, a clap of thunder echoed across the sky. Faster than words could describe, a torrential downpour began. The 2 maids were momentarily stunned, then quickly scrambled back into the ancestral hall for shelter, leaving Scarlett kneeling there alone. Chapter 3. Let's get divorced. The rain poured down harder and harder, and Scarlett's heart grew colder and colder. She didn't know how long she had knelt, only that the rain eventually stopped, though the sky remained dark. The 2 maids assigned to watch her were fast asleep. She could have easily left then, but Scarlett still clung to a sliver of unwillingness to accept defeat. She couldn't believe it, couldn't believe Barnaby could truly be this cruel. But sometimes, people really shouldn't be too naive. At dawn, Barnaby finally arrived. Scarlett had knelt all night. Her body was utterly exhausted, like a bow stretched to its limit. Yet, she needed an answer. She dug her nails into her palms, using the pain to stay alert. "Have you calmed down now?" If he had calmed down, maybe he would listen to her explanation. Barnaby looked at Scarlett before him. Drenched from the night's rain, she was a mess. Her almond eyes couldn't hide her exhaustion, but deep within them burned a strange persistence. Her gaze made him feel somewhat stifled. "Do you know you were wrong?" Scarlett froze for a moment, suddenly feeling that her entire night of kneeling had been a joke. But she had knelt all night, waited for him all night. Her sense of injustice shouldn't be buried just like that. "Last night, I really didn't push Lydia Ashton into the water. She jumped in herself." She spoke as she stumbled to her feet, lifting her head to look directly at him. "But I know you don't believe me, so let's get divorced, Barnaby Ainsworth." Let's get divorced, Barnaby Ainsworth. Barnaby had expected to hear Scarlett admit her fault first thing in the morning. Instead, she hadn't admitted anything, but told him she wanted a divorce. After speaking, Scarlett turned and walked away. She moved slowly. Her knees were swollen and painful from kneeling all night, and the night spent in the rain had left her feverish, making every step incredibly difficult. Despite this, she kept her back straight. Soon, Scarlett reached her room. Gritting her teeth, she sent a quick message to Chloe Sullivan, then rapidly packed her few belongings into a suitcase. As she dragged the suitcase downstairs, she crossed paths with Barnaby coming up. Scarlett didn't spare him a single glance, simply continuing on her way out. Scarlett was in a terrible state. After forcing herself out of the Ainsworth house, her vision began to blur. Fortunately, just before she fainted, Chloe arrived. Seeing Scarlett staggering along the roadside, dragging a suitcase, Chloe nearly exploded with rage. "Is Barnaby Ainsworth dead?" She quickly got out of the car, helped Scarlett put the suitcase in the trunk, and just as she turned back, she saw Scarlett sway and collapse. "Scar," Chloe cried out in alarm, rushing over to catch her. Touching Scarlett, the heat radiating from her skin was startling. Heartbroken and furious, Chloe helped Scarlett into the car. "I'm taking you to the hospital, Scar." Scarlett was unconscious, slumped in the passenger seat, her face pale and heart-wrenching. Chloe didn't have time to confront the Ainsworths. She slammed the accelerator and sped to the nearest hospital. Scarlett remained unconscious with a high fever until the afternoon. When she opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was Chloe slumped asleep beside her hospital bed. Scarlett paused, the events of the past hours vivid in her mind. Thinking back, her chest still felt tight and painful. Afraid of waking Chloe, she bit her lip to stifle her sobs. In the dim light, tears streamed down her face silently. She was wrong. She shouldn't have believed she could warm Barnaby's heart. His heart had belonged to Lydia Ashton all along. These past 3 years, she had been nothing but a joke. No wonder Lydia had called her stupid. Thinking about it now, she wasn't just stupid, she was foolish. There probably wasn't a woman in the world as foolish as her. Chapter 4. I need to get a divorce. When Scarlett woke up again, it was past 7 the next morning. After a day and night of delirious sleep, waking up felt like having her bones pulled out weak and exhausted. Chloe had just returned with breakfast. Seeing her awake, she rushed to the bedside. "How are you feeling? Still unwell?" Scarlett shook her head. "Much better. I bought your favorite steamed dumplings. Go wash your face and brush your teeth. We'll check out after breakfast. The weather in Mauritius is perfect right now. Some friends of mine are planning to go too. We should go together. Haven't you always wanted to? Hand me my phone." Scarlett had been looking for her phone since she woke up but couldn't find it. She knew Chloe must have taken it. Chloe didn't hand it over immediately. "What do you need your phone for?" Scarlett glanced at her. "The news online must be everywhere, right?" She knew Chloe too well. Scarlett had walked out of the Ainsworth house the night before, and upon waking, Chloe hadn't uttered a single curse, hadn't even mentioned the Ainsworths, just talked about other things. Scarlett didn't need to guess. The events of the previous night had likely blown up online. Chloe looked guilty under her gaze. What's there to see? Just those clueless netizens jumping on the bandwagon, venting their frustrations by attacking people. Scarlett took the phone and managed a small smile. "If that's the case, what are you worried about?" She paused. "Haven't I been cursed enough during these years with the Ainsworths?" Thinking back on the past 3 years, Chloe turned pale with anger, pursing her lips. "That bunch of idiots at the Ainsworths, if you hadn't stopped me, I would have cursed them out long ago." Scarlett didn't reply, lowering her head to look at her phone. The top trending topic was indeed about her pushing Lydia Ashton into the pool the night before. The comments below were overwhelmingly one-sided, all cursing Scarlett. After the label of a shameless gold digger trying to marry into wealth, Scarlett now had a new tag, a malicious and resentful wealthy wife. Great. Marrying Barnaby Ainsworth for 3 years hadn't been entirely fruitless. Scarlett curled her lips into a cold smile. "I'm going to wash up." Chloe looked at her, asking cautiously, "Scar, are you okay?" "I'm fine." Chloe opened her mouth, then said, "Go wash up. After all, you need strength to be sad." Scarlett was indeed hurting, but it wasn't the first time. No matter how much it hurt, she could control it now. She was like a child waiting for candy. After being denied time and time again, hope eventually fades. The cold tap water sharpened Scarlett's senses. Barnaby's push last night felt like it had shattered something inside her. 3 years, it was time to make a clean break. But Chloe was right, she needed strength. As they were eating breakfast, 2 young nurses came out from the opposite room. The hallway was quiet, and their gossiping voices, though not loud, were clearly audible to Scarlett and Chloe. "That Mrs. Ashton is so pitiful, isn't she?" And the second Mrs. Ainsworth is just too vicious. It hasn't even been that long since the eldest young master passed away, and she caused the loss of his posthumous child. That's why marrying within your own class is important, that second Mrs. Ainsworth came from a common background. Once she married into wealth, she clearly got dazzled. She can't compare to Mrs. Ashton at all. I don't know what's wrong with her head. In the Ainsworth situation, she couldn't even tolerate her own nephew. That woman is just too cruel. Scar, don't hold me back, they didn't even see it happen, yet they're talking like it's gospel. This is slander. Scarlett glanced towards the door. Let them talk. When did you become such a pushover? Scarlett pressed her lips together. I left a trump card. What trump card? What kind of trump card could possibly? Scarlett whispered something in her ear. Chloe froze for a second, then, understanding dawned, she clicked her tongue. Now that's the Scar I know, Scarlett smiled. Help me with the discharge procedures. I need to get a divorce. Chapter 5. Sign the divorce agreement. Scarlett walked into Barnaby Ainsworth's office at Ainsworth Corp. Without preamble, she placed the divorce agreement on his desk. Barnaby Ainsworth, sign this. He looked up, his expression unreadable. You drafted this? Yes. I want nothing from you, no property, no assets, nothing. Just sign it. Barnaby picked up the single sheet of paper. The terms were starkly clear. She was walking away with absolutely nothing tied to his name. He looked at her, a flicker of something surprise, disdain, in his cold eyes. You're sure about this? Crystal clear, Scarlett replied, meeting his gaze steadily. Her voice was calm, devoid of the pleading or hurt it might have held before. The only mistake was marrying you in the first place. Divorcing you is the clearest decision I've ever made. Barnaby's jaw tightened slightly. He took a pen, his movements deliberate, and signed his name beside hers. Done. Scarlett nodded, took her copy of the agreement, and turned to leave. She didn't look back. The entire exchange took less than a minute. As she walked out, Barnaby watched her go, a strange mix of irritation and something else stirring within him. She wanted nothing. Where did Scarlett Davenport get this confidence? He picked up his copy, glanced at her signature, then slowly tore the agreement into pieces. Fine, let's see if she really goes through with this tomorrow. Chapter 6. All because of Barnaby Ainsworth. From entering to leaving, Scarlett spent no more than 10 seconds in his office. Barnaby watched her retreating back, his dark eyes gradually deepening. He reached out and picked up the divorce agreement from the desk. Scarlett had already signed her part. The space left was for his signature. The agreement wasn't long, just a single page. The terms were clearly written. She wanted none of his assets, not a single cent. After reading the divorce agreement, Barnaby couldn't help but laugh. Not a single cent? Where did Scarlett Davenport get this confidence? Fine, he'd see tomorrow if she really intended to divorce him. Just like that, Barnaby's gaze hardened, and he tore the divorce agreement in his hands to shreds. When Liam Asher entered, he saw Barnaby standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, smoking, his black suit exuding coldness. Liam suddenly hesitated to speak, but the meeting was important. Liam could only brace himself and say, Mr. Ainsworth, the 10 a.m. meeting has already started. Hearing him, Barnaby turned around from the window. His deep black eyes were like ice caves, his brow tinged with frost. Just one glance sent a chill down Liam's spine. I know. Barnaby frowned slightly, stubbed out the perfectly good cigarette, tossed it into the nearby trash bin, and strode past Liam out of the office. Mr. Ainsworth was in a terrible mood today. Liam thought of the upcoming meeting and suddenly felt sorry for the speaker. Scarlett had only taken about 6 or 7 minutes in total. Her heart was calm throughout the process. None of the pain and struggle she had imagined materialized. Indeed, when disappointment accumulates, hope ceases to exist. She walked out of Ainsworth Corp., looked up at the somewhat gloomy sky, feeling a slight tightness in her chest, but the suffocating pressure was gone. Chloe was right. Divorce should happen sooner rather than later. Lowering her gaze, Scarlett walked to the car and tapped on the window. Chloe was on the phone. Seeing Scarlett return, she quickly unlocked the door. Scarlett silently got in, not interrupting her call. Just as she fastened her seatbelt, she looked up to find Chloe handing her the phone. Scarlett raised an eyebrow. Who is it? Uncle Sebastian. Scarlett stiffened, pausing for 2 seconds before taking Chloe's phone and saying, Dad, you've been wandering for 3 years. Isn't it time to come home? When Barnaby had forced her to kneel the night before yesterday, she hadn't cried. When she had just turned and left after dropping off the divorce agreement, she hadn't cried either. But now, hearing Sebastian Davenport simply ask if it was time to come home, Scarlett couldn't hold back her tears. 3 years ago, when she insisted on marrying Barnaby, her parents and almost everyone around her had opposed it. But she was young and reckless, thinking that since Barnaby was willing to marry her, he must have feelings for her. Yet, she had spent 3 years proving just how wrong she was. It turned out a man might marry a woman not out of love or admiration, but potentially for the sake of another woman, dragging an innocent woman who loved him deeply into their tangled mess of love and hate. Barnaby loved Lydia Ashton. How cliché an uncle-in-law and a sister-in-law. And she, the so-called Mrs. Ainsworth, was merely a cover for their affair. It was laughable that she had alienated everyone, even causing her doting father, Sebastian Davenport, to say, "If you insist on marrying him, then you're no daughter of mine for such a man." Scarlett suddenly broke down crying. Afraid Sebastian on the other end would hear, she tried to suppress her sobs, but the immense sense of grievance and injustice was overwhelming, causing her shoulders to tremble pitifully. Scar, Chloe watched from the side, her heart aching. She and Scarlett had known each other since infancy. Throughout their lives, when had the carefree and proud heiress of the Davenport family ever cried so wretchedly? And all of this was because of Barnaby Ainsworth Chapter 7. Barnaby Ainsworth isn't even as loyal as a dog. I'll come home after I finish things here. On the other end of the line, Sebastian Davenport's throat tightened. "Okay, Mom and Dad will wait for you. Okay." After hanging up, Scarlett covered her face with her hands. She was already grown up, yet she still made her parents worry so much. All for a man like Barnaby Ainsworth. Scarlett felt she had truly failed as a daughter. Chloe took the phone back, waiting silently beside Scarlett as she released her emotions. After 5 minutes, Scarlett calmed down. Taking a tissue, she wiped her tears and asked in a hoarse voice, "Can I borrow the marketing accounts under your cousin's company?" The famous Galaxy Entertainment was managed by Chloe's cousin, Colin Sullivan. For artists' daily promotion, Galaxy owned smaller companies that maintained numerous marketing accounts. Chloe paused, then quickly pulled out her phone. "Wait, I'll ask my cousin for the contacts right now." "Okay," Scarlett replied, turning her head to look at the Ainsworth Corp building outside the car window, a sarcastic smile playing on her lips. How could she ever have thought she could warm Barnaby's heart? 3 years? Thankfully, she realized now that she couldn't warm it because his heart belonged to someone else. That was fine, too. At least it made her defeat feel thoroughly deserved. But the blame she had carried and the grievances she had suffered over the years, Scarlett wouldn't let them go so easily after finishing her call with Colin. Chloe turned her head and saw Scarlett looking out the window. The sky outside was dark, casting half of Scarlett's face in shadow. Chloe knew Scarlett was still hurting. "Want to go out tonight?" Hearing this, Scarlett turned her head and gave her a faint look. "No, I need to conserve my energy." They stopped at a red light. Chloe turned to look at Scarlett. "Looks like you're in a decent mood. When Reginald died back in high school, I was only sad for a few days. Why should Barnaby Ainsworth deserve more? He had occupied 3 years of her life. Now that she was climbing out of the abyss, what was there to be sad about?" Chloe was somewhat impressed by Scarlett's comparison. Reginald was a dog, but thinking about it, she was right. Barnaby Ainsworth wasn't even as loyal as a dog. He truly wasn't worth a single tear from her scar. Chloe had initially worried about Scarlett's pain. But now it seemed she had underestimated her. Scarlett went to bed before 10 that night. Chloe, on the other hand, battled trolls online, staying up furiously until past 3 in the morning before finally sleeping, consequently waking up close to 9 the next day. Chloe emerged from her room, rubbing her eyes sleepily, to find Scarlett already dressed, makeup done, bag in hand, ready to leave. Scarlett had the classic beauty of a Southern belle, captivating eyes, delicate features, a beauty that wasn't flamboyant but deeply resonated. Today, she wore a simple yet strangely alluring outfit. A deep brown off-the-shoulder loose sweater, dark blue skinny jeans, and black Oxford shoes that matched the sweater. Her long hair cascaded down, highlighting her straight, elegant shoulder line and long, slender legs. She exuded a unique blend of gentleness and sensuality, incredibly pleasing to the eye. Chloe was very satisfied with Scarlett's look, not overly formal, yet retaining her distinct charm. Perfect. I'm heading out. Scarlett picked up her phone from the side table and glanced at Chloe. Chloe ran over and gave her a fierce hug. Go say goodbye to mistakes and embrace a new beginning, Scarlett smiled and replied. Okay. Chapter 8. Just a woman who overestimated herself, Scarlett arrived at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau exactly at 8:55 a.m. The marriage registration window already had a queue, but she was the only one at the divorce window. It wasn't quite 9 yet, and Barnaby Ainsworth hadn't arrived. At precisely 9 o'clock, the divorce window at the Civil Affairs Bureau opened on time. Scarlett glanced down at her phone. Barnaby wasn't someone who liked being late, yet today he was late. It wasn't until 9:05 a.m. that Scarlett saw the man walk in through the main entrance. He was dressed impeccably in a suit, as always, his sharp, defined face expressionless. Noticing her gaze, Barnaby turned his head slightly, watching her coolly as she walked towards him step by step. This wasn't the first time Scarlett had been subjected to his emotionless, cold stare. In the past, it always felt somewhat hurtful, but today, facing his gaze, her heart was as calm as still water. Good morning. The divorce agreement is the same one from yesterday, she said, handing the agreement over. Barnaby's face darkened. Are you sure? Absolutely. Scarlett looked up at him, enunciating each word clearly. Marrying him was when she hadn't thought clearly, but now, divorcing him, she had thought everything through with perfect clarity. Barnaby frowned unhappily. Very well. He hoped she wouldn't regret this later. Scarlett didn't say anything more, walking straight to the window. The divorce procedure was simple. Sign the agreement, sign one final document, stamp it, and they would have no relationship anymore. In less than 5 minutes, the marriage certificate turned into a divorce certificate. From now on, they were like two intersecting lines that would never cross again. Scarlett walked behind Barnaby. After receiving the divorce certificate, he turned and left immediately, not even sparing her another glance. But then again, he had wanted to get rid of her for a long time. Now that his wish was granted, naturally, he wouldn't want to look at her even once more. In Barnaby Ainsworth's eyes, she was probably a malicious and calculating woman. It didn't matter anymore. They had no future together anyway. However, as she reached the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Scarlett was surprised to find Barnaby hadn't left. Lydia Ashton lost her child because of you. Even though we're divorced, you should still go to the hospital and apologize to her. A breeze blew past, and Scarlett had never felt the autumn wind so cold. She had thought that after 3 years of marriage, Barnaby might have some shred of compassion. Now, hearing his words, Scarlett could only find herself laughable. She tilted her head slightly, looking up at the man before her, and suddenly smiled. You're right. For the sake of our past marriage, don't worry, I will take responsibility for my actions. And for the things she hadn't done, she wouldn't swallow the insults silently either. As she spoke, she tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. By the way, to show my sincerity, I've prepared a big gift for Lydia. Make sure she remembers to receive it. After saying this, Scarlett gave Barnaby one last look, then turned and walked away decisively. Scarlett reached the roadside and hailed an empty taxi. The car drove past Barnaby. Sitting inside, her beautiful face held a touch of coldness. Barnaby frowned, feeling an inexplicable irritation. He glanced at his waiting car nearby, but didn't walk over. Instead, he took out a cigarette case from his pocket, pulled one out, and lit it with his head bowed. His marriage to Scarlett, he hadn't intended to marry her when they got married, nor had he intended to divorce her when they divorced. But now they were truly divorced. Barnaby couldn't exactly say he was upset. Scarlett, to him, was merely a woman he could accept as his wife. Yet, looking down at the divorce certificate in his hand, the cigarette tasted bland, and a sense of frustration lingered unexpressed. Forget it. She was just a woman who overestimated herself. Chapter 9. Scarlett, who do you think you are? When Scarlett returned to Chloe's apartment, Chloe was already wide awake, standing excitedly behind the door watching her. Well, are you divorced? Let me see the divorce certificate. She had been wishing upon stars for Scarlett to divorce that jerk Barnaby Ainsworth. Seeing Chloe like this, Scarlett couldn't help but smile, taking the divorce certificate out of her bag. Divorced? Chloe almost burst into tears upon seeing the certificate. Good, it's good that you're divorced from now on. You're a single, beautiful young woman, sis. Wanna go wild tonight? Scarlett shook her head. Not tonight. I haven't been home in 3 years. I miss home. As she spoke, she raised a hand to cover her eyes slightly. 3 years. For Barnaby Ainsworth, she had abandoned her own parents for 3 years. Now that it was all over, there was no need for her to cling stubbornly to Linchester, this city that couldn't accommodate her. However, before leaving, she needed Chloe to deliver the gift she had prepared for Lydia Ashton. Those audio files I sent you, you can arrange for them to be released now. Didn't Barnaby want her to apologize to Lydia? She would apologize now. An apology she guaranteed Lydia Ashton would be 100% satisfied with thinking of this. Chloe became instantly excited. I've been waiting for you to say that I've already arranged everything. One phone call, and it'll absolutely blow up the entire internet, Scarlett nodded. I'm going to pack my things. My flight is at 3. Shall we grab lunch together? Chloe immediately understood Scarlett's intentions. You're not coming back ever? Why would I come back? My home is in Nanchang. Chloe felt that the awakened Scarlett was incredibly decisive and straightforward. She didn't want to stay in this dump Linchester either. Then wait for me, I'll sort out my studio affairs, and in a few months, I'll go back with you. Scarlett paused, feeling a bit apologetic. But your studio just got to where it is today. Ah, that useless studio barely makes any money. I'm quitting. For children from families like theirs, they were born with wealth that could last lifetimes. Chloe had opened the studio partly to make Scarlett feel more at ease, so she wouldn't feel guilty thinking Chloe came to Linchester just for her. Scarlett knew the reason well and felt touched, murmuring a soft, okay. After lunch, Chloe drove Scarlett to the airport. Scarlett's flight was at 3:08 p.m. As the plane took off, several major social media marketing accounts simultaneously released the same video across the internet. The video content showed the entire process of Lydia Ashton supposedly being pushed into the swimming pool by Scarlett on the night of Augustus Ainsworth's birthday celebration. However, the video clearly showed no such push. Instead, it depicted Lydia Ashton deliberately falling into the pool after Scarlett had turned and walked away. Only Scarlett and Lydia were by the pool that night, and the conversation in the video was crystal clear. Scarlett, who do you think you are? Do you think Barnaby loves you? Don't be naive, you're just a tool he married to appease the Ainsworth elders. Scarlett, tell me, if I fell into this pool and this child was lost, how would Barnaby treat you? Scarlett, just wait to be kicked out of the Ainsworth family. Shortly after the video was released, audio recordings of Lydia repeatedly bullying and mocking Scarlett in private followed. Scarlett, I advise you not to harbor foolish fantasies. Barnaby will never like you. Scarlett, let me tell you the truth. The person Barnaby loves is me. If you want to fight me, you're destined to lose miserably. No one cares whether you did it or not. As long as I say you did it, the Ainsworth family will definitely believe me. Are you angry? What can you do even if you are angry? Who told you to foolishly dream of marrying into this family? Take a look at yourself. What status do you have? Do you even deserve to step through the Ainsworth family's door? The release of the video and audio recordings caused an uproar online. The story of the eldest Ainsworth heir's posthumous child being harmed hadn't fully subsided, and now this sudden, dramatic reversal, how could it not cause an explosion? Chapter 10. Has Scarlett gone mad? The news quickly reached Barnaby Ainsworth. After watching the video footage from that night, he sat there, his face as cold as frost, silent for a long time. An hour after the incident broke, someone found Scarlett's social media account. All previous posts had been deleted, leaving only one update from an hour ago. Sorry, I was wrong. Scarlett had apologized as he wished, but in light of all the revealed truths, the apology seemed sarcastic and laughable. Liam Asher stood before the desk, head bowed after delivering the report, not daring to look at Barnaby. The atmosphere in the office was suffocatingly tense. Barnaby's face was etched with frost, his dark eyes as gloomy as the sky before a downpour. Get it taken down within half an hour, Liam stiffened. Mr. Ainsworth, it can't be taken down. What do you mean, it can't be taken down? Those dark eyes glinted with sharp coldness. Liam's heart trembled. He braced himself and explained, as soon as it was released, I had the company's PR department contact people to remove it. They said Colin Sullivan of Galaxy Entertainment personally requested it stay up. The moment Liam finished speaking, Barnaby's face turned utterly dark. Scarlett Davenport truly had some nerve. Barnaby pressed his lips into a thin, sharp line, his face taut like a blade. He didn't speak again, reaching for his phone nearby. Just as he was about to call Scarlett, his phone rang. Seeing the caller ID, Barnaby's eyes darkened. Grandfather. Augustus Ainsworth, upon learning about the online events, was trembling with rage. The moment the call connected, his furious voice boomed. Did Scarlett post that stuff online? Where is she? Tell her to have it deleted immediately and get her ass back home right now. I understand. I'll hang up first, grandfather. Hanging up, Barnaby dialed Scarlett's number. However, the only response was a cold, automated message. Sorry, the number you have dialed is temporarily unavailable. Please try again later. The scandal of the Ainsworth uncle-in-law and sister-in-law affair was laid bare online by Scarlett for public judgment. Augustus's blood pressure soared with anger. Unable to reach Scarlett, Barnaby had no choice but to return to the Ainsworth estate alone to pacify his grandfather. Seeing him return, Augustus's first words were, "Where is that bitch Scarlett?" Barnaby frowned slightly. "Grandfather, Scarlett and I are divorced." "Divorced? I don't care if you're divorced or not after causing such a mess. I want her to publicly clarify, apologize, and admit her mistake. I understand. Please take care of your health." Barnaby finished speaking, glanced at Augustus and the other few Ainsworth family members present, then turned and left, getting into the car he arrived in. To the hospital. It was obvious which hospital. With such a huge incident unfolding, one main party was Scarlett, the other was Lydia Ashton. At that moment, Lydia Ashton, inside the hospital, was completely stunned. She never expected the usually quiet Scarlett to have so many tricks up her sleeve. With all this now public, she definitely couldn't stay with the Ainsworth family any longer. Has Scarlett gone mad? Willing to perish together, just to drag her down too. Just as Lydia was frantic with anxiety, the door to her room was pushed open. A man walked in, emanating coldness, his dark eyes fixed on her. Are those things true? Lydia's heart trembled under Barnaby's gaze. She instinctively reached out to grab him. Barnaby, listen to me, that was all Scarlett. She hired people. Even now, Lydia still tried to argue. Barnaby's face grew darker, his eyes simmering with suppressed anger. Get ready. Someone will escort you abroad tomorrow. I don't want to, Barnaby. I don't want to go abroad. You know I love you. The person I've always loved is you. Lydia knew that if she went abroad, she would have absolutely no connection to the Ainsworth family anymore. However, the man didn't even turn his head, walking straight out of the hospital room. Chapter 11. She seems to be doing well after the divorce. The scandal of the Ainsworth uncle-in-law and sister-in-law affair remained online for a full 3 days. Those who had once mocked Scarlett for overreaching, trying to climb the social ladder, now felt a sliver of pity for her. Augustus Ainsworth ordered Barnaby to find Scarlett, even if it meant digging 3 feet underground. Yet, despite Liam Asher practically doing just that, he couldn't trace where Scarlett had gone after leaving Linchester. Scarlett's personal social media account, aside from the single apology post on the day she left, remained empty. All previous posts were deleted, and no new updates followed. The picture accompanying that apology post was of Scarlett and Barnaby's divorce certificates. Many curious netizens flocked to her account, causing her follower count to surge by over 2 million in just a few days. Yet, Scarlett seemed to have vanished into thin air. All her phone numbers and bank cards registered in Linchester were cancelled. The last traceable clue was a plane ticket Scarlett bought on September 20th to Nanchang. But once she arrived in Nanchang, Liam could find no further trace of her. Liam spent a whole week investigating in Nanchang to no avail. He had no choice but to return to Linchester and report to Barnaby, bracing himself. Mr. Ainsworth, I couldn't find any information on Miss Davenport. Barnaby's sharp face instantly clouded over, his gaze chillingly intense. Are you telling me that Scarlett Davenport, who was married to me for 3 years, suddenly appeared and has now suddenly disappeared again? Cold sweat beaded on Liam's back. Mr. Ainsworth, if you put it that way, you're not wrong. Barnaby felt a sharp pang, as if pricked by something. He laughed, a laugh born of extreme anger. In that case, just assume she's dead. He finished speaking and shot Liam a cold glare. Get out. Liam didn't dare linger, nodding and quickly retreating. The door closed, leaving Barnaby alone in the vast office. He stood by the floor-to-ceiling window for a while before finally turning back to his desk chair. His peripheral vision caught a cute, chubby cat porcelain figurine on the desk. His eyes turned cold, and he swept the figurine into the trash bin. Fine, just fine. 3 months later. Linchester Hilton Hotel. Scarlett and her secretary, Felicity Payne, had just taken their seats when they heard someone in front of them call out, "Mr. Ainsworth," towards someone behind her. There weren't many people with the surname Ainsworth in Linchester. Scarlett subconsciously glanced back. Sure enough, the person approaching was none other than her ex-husband, Barnaby Ainsworth. Oh, what a delightful surprise guest. Howard Bishop, seated beside her, stood up with a grin. "Mr. Ainsworth, you're here. This is Manager Davenport from Apex, Miss Scarlett Davenport." Hearing her name, Scarlett raised an eyebrow slightly, stood up, and faced the stern-faced man before her. Extending her hand with a radiant smile, she said, "Mr. Ainsworth, a pleasure to finally meet you." Barnaby looked at the Scarlett before him. Vanished for 3 months, she seemed like a different person. Not only was she glowing, but her previously straight black hair was now styled into chestnut-colored waves, cascading loosely down her back, bouncing slightly as she stood up. Scarlett's makeup today was bright and captivating, her eyeliner deep, accentuating her almond eyes beautifully under the earthy eyeshadow tones. She looked at him, a faint smile playing on her lips, her voice clear and crisp, polite and gracious, as if they were complete strangers. She seemed to be doing very well after the divorce. Barnaby's eyes darkened. His gaze swept over Scarlett's outstretched hand, offering no courtesy whatsoever as he took his seat directly. The smile on Scarlett's face faded slightly. She withdrew her hand nonchalantly, while Howard Bishop beside them quickly tried to smooth things over, changing the subject. Scarlett composed herself, replying to Howard with a smile, her gaze never once straying towards Barnaby Ainsworth. Howard occasionally tried to include Barnaby in the conversation, but the man sat there, his deep eyes coldly observing Scarlett opposite him. Even Howard sensed the awkward atmosphere and quickly wrapped up the pleasantries. The dinner meeting thus concluded rather abruptly. Chapter 12. You're not qualified. Beatrice Ainsworth. Scarlett didn't leave with the others. When the dinner broke up, she and Felicity Payne turned and headed towards the restroom. Barnaby watched Scarlett rise and leave, his expression unreadable as he turned his gaze away and headed towards the exit. Liam Asher followed behind, not daring to breathe too loudly. The Scarlett they had turned the city upside down looking for had suddenly reappeared tonight as a manager from Apex, even greeting Barnaby as if nothing had happened. He hadn't realized before just how bold Scarlett could be. "Miss Davenport." As Scarlett exited the restroom, Felicity looked at her with concern. Felicity had been assigned to Scarlett by Sebastian Davenport. Naturally, she was aware of the messy history between Scarlett and Barnaby. Seeing them unexpectedly meet tonight, Felicity was worried about Scarlett. Scarlett turned off the faucet, dried her hands, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Worried about me?" she chuckled slightly. "No need." She wasn't foolish anymore. Felicity paused, then breathed a sigh of relief as she understood, following Scarlett out. The driver was already waiting with the car at the hotel entrance. As Scarlett stepped out of the elevator, she assumed Barnaby and his group had left earlier. Unexpectedly, she ran into them in the lobby's seating area. She glanced over. Howard Bishop was gone, leaving only Barnaby and Liam Asher. Oh well, no need for greetings then. Scarlett averted her gaze and walked straight ahead, looking neither left nor right. Just as she reached the entrance, a sharp female voice pierced the air from behind. "What are you doing here?" The voice was familiar to Scarlett. During those 3 years with the Ainsworths, she had heard it almost daily. Hearing Beatrice Ainsworth's voice, Scarlett paused briefly. Before she could move again, Beatrice rushed up to her. "You still have the face to come back, Scarlett. Over the past few months, because of that video and those audio recordings, the Ainsworth family had become a laughingstock. If not for their long-standing influence deterring anyone from openly criticizing them, they would have been dragged through the mud. But at university, no one cared if Beatrice was an Ainsworth heiress. Beatrice had previously boasted to everyone about how Scarlett was a toad trying to eat swan meat. Now, with the uncle-sister-in-law affair exposed, Beatrice had been thoroughly ridiculed by her classmates recently. And this was all because of Scarlett. If Scarlett hadn't posted those videos and audio files online, the Ainsworth family wouldn't have become the city's joke seeing Scarlett now. Beatrice's accumulated anger from the past few months erupted. She strode quickly towards Scarlett and raised her hand to slap her across the face, but the slap never landed. Her wrist was caught firmly. Beatrice looked up and met Scarlett's slightly cold gaze. "Hit me. You're not qualified, Beatrice Ainsworth." As Scarlett spoke, she twisted Beatrice's hand away and delivered a sharp slap across her face. "You reminded me. You still owe me a slap." The crisp sound echoed. Scarlett hadn't held back at all. Liam Asher, standing nearby, heard the slap and instinctively glanced at Barnaby. The man's face was cold. He hung up his phone and strode directly towards Scarlett and Beatrice. Beatrice was stunned by the slap. Seeing Barnaby approach, she covered her face and burst into tears. "Brother, she hit me, she just hit me." Scarlett looked at Barnaby, raising an eyebrow with a slight smirk. "Yes, I hit her. So what? Is Mr. Ainsworth going to hit me back?" Barnaby had never been provoked like this. He looked at the Scarlett before him. Only 3 months had passed. Where did she get the audacity to challenge him? His face darkened, and just as he was about to speak, Scarlett cut him off. "I won't provoke you, so don't provoke me either. Push me too far, and I have plenty more Ainsworth family gossip on hand." Scarlett finished speaking, her smile vanishing, replaced by a cold look directed at Barnaby. "A good ex should be like their dead. Control your people." With that, Scarlett turned and walked away, leaving behind a stone-faced Barnaby and a trembling, furious Beatrice. Chapter 13. Oh, and her new beau watching Scarlett's retreating back. Beatrice was so furious she wanted to chase after her, but Barnaby grabbed her arm firmly. She turned back to look at him. "Brother," Barnaby gave her a cold glance. "Don't provoke her." Beatrice wanted to argue, but meeting Barnaby's gaze, she froze, feeling wronged. "But she clearly hit me." Barnaby released her hand, looking up at Scarlett, who had already reached the entrance. He frowned slightly. Just 3 months, and she had already grown rebellious. Scarlett walked straight ahead, not once looking back at the people behind her until she got into the car. As Chloe said, not worth it. Felicity Payne glanced at Scarlett beside her. Since getting into the car, Scarlett hadn't said a word, just stared out the window with a faint expression, clearly in a bad mood. "Miss Davenport." The car was quiet. Felicity couldn't help but call out to Scarlett. Scarlett turned her head to look at Felicity, saw her hesitant expression, and couldn't help but smile slightly. "Did I scare you just now?" Felicity shook her head. "Are you really planning to stay in Linchester for the next 6 months?" Scarlett raised an eyebrow. "Why? Afraid I'll go back to him?" She wasn't a horse. She didn't have a habit of eating grass she'd already left behind. Scarlett's words made her attitude clear enough. Felicity replied, "Not entirely, but this is Linchester, after all. I'm worried you might get bullied." Scarlett smiled. "Don't worry, there aren't many people who can bully me." She had been stupid before, practically handing her face over for the Ainsworths to slap. Now that she had woken up, if Barnaby or his family dared to touch her, she would hit back. Felicity wanted to say more, but seeing the smile on Scarlett's lips, she ultimately held back. True, she was the Davenport heiress. Who would dare touch Scarlett Davenport? Beatrice had been slapped, and not only did Barnaby not avenge her, but he also warned her not to provoke Scarlett. As soon as she returned to the Ainsworth estate, Beatrice went straight to Augustus Ainsworth to complain. More than 3 months had passed, but Augustus still hadn't swallowed his anger. Hearing that Scarlett was back, his fury flared up again. Beatrice added fuel to the fire with her exaggerated account. Augustus was so enraged he immediately called Barnaby, demanding he bring Scarlett over the next day to kowtow and admit her mistake. Barnaby had just returned to his apartment when he received Augustus's call. Standing on the balcony, his face was cool as water. "Grandfather, she and I are already divorced." "So what if you're divorced?" "For what she did, if we called the police, she'd spend months in jail." Barnaby loosened his tie, feeling impatient. Everything she posted was the truth. Augustus was momentarily stunned. By the time he recovered, the call had already been disconnected. Barnaby hung up directly, tossing his phone onto the sofa behind him, then clipped the end of a cigar. Scarlett had disappeared for 3 months, only to reappear transformed into a manager at Apex. The usually meek little rabbit had bared her claws at him tonight. Barnaby scoffed. Just 3 months, and she'd already gone wild. Just as he took a drag from the cigar, the phone on the sofa rang. Barnaby glanced at it coldly, having no desire to answer. But the caller was persistent. When it rang a second time, he finally walked over and picked it up. "Speak!" It was Julian Ramsey calling. The music on the other end was deafening. Barnaby frowned, barely resisting the urge to hang up. "We're at 1, are you coming?" "No," Barnaby replied flatly. Just as he was about to hang up, he heard Julian's voice again. "Barnaby, is Scarlett back? How do you know?" "She's right here in front of me." Julian clicked his tongue. "Oh, and her new beau, gotta say, he's quite handsome." Chapter 14. You're in for a treat tonight. Scarlett had been dragged to the bar by Chloe under the guise of celebrating her birthday. As the queen of the nightlife scene, Chloe Sullivan had no trouble handling a place like one. She had booked out more than half the venue. It was crowded, mostly with familiar faces. Scarlett had rushed over straight from her business dinner, still wearing the same outfit. A white halter-neck chiffon blouse layered under a striped, slim-fit blazer, paired with black trousers and 7-centimeter stiletto heels, chic and sophisticatedly assertive. The heating was on inside, and with the crowd, Scarlett took off her blazer after sitting for a while. Chloe approached from afar, leading a man. In the multicolored flashing lights, Scarlett recognized Lachlan Sinclair as he drew closer. Chloe came over, draping an arm around Scarlett's shoulder. "Scar, you still remember him, right?" Scarlett smiled. Of course. 5 years had passed. Lachlan Sinclair had certainly grown into quite the man. Scarlett looked at the tall, handsome man before her, raising an eyebrow. "When did you get back?" "Yesterday." Lachlan sat down beside her, grabbing 2 drinks and handing one to Scarlett. From across the room, Tanya Adams walked over. "Well, look who it is, our high school's summer haze band, all together again." As soon as Tanya finished speaking, Chloe jumped up. "You know what, you're right," she then called out to a man nearby. "Gee man, get over here quick." "Come on, Chloe, I'm 27 this year, give me some face. Can you stop calling me that?" A baby-faced man appeared as he spoke. Chloe clicked her tongue. "Calling you G-man is doing you a favor, don't push your luck," Greg Lane surrendered, raising his hands. "My bad." "That's more like it." Scarlett watched their banter, feeling as though she had returned to her school days. As she reminisced about her youth, Chloe suddenly slapped her thigh. "It's been ages since we performed on stage, right? It's my birthday tonight, and I've booked half the place. Can't let it go to waste. How about we make a glorious comeback tonight?" As she spoke, Chloe was already summoning staff to move instruments onto the stage. Let's go, I'm gonna rock this place tonight." So many years had passed, yet Chloe was still an incorrigible enthusiast. Just as Scarlett was about to speak, Chloe grabbed her arm and pulled her onto the stage. With another push, she was positioned in front of the drum set. She hadn't touched drumsticks in 5 years. But before Scarlett could finish, Lachlan handed her 2 drumsticks from the side. "Forgotten." Seeing her hesitation, Lachlan clicked his tongue. Scarlett raised an eyebrow, took the drumsticks, twirled them expertly in her hand a few times. "How could I, just a little rusty?" Scarlett sat down, tapped the drums a few times to test the sound. The sharp TSSD sound immediately drew the attention of both Chloe and Greg. Noticing their gazes, Scarlett smirked. "What, forgotten?" Chloe hadn't seen this carefree, vibrant Scarlett in a long time. Her eyes instantly warmed. "Scar, underestimating me, I've been practicing hard all these years." Chloe was the bassist, Greg and Lachlan were the guitarists, and Lachlan was the lead vocalist. This was the once famous band, Summer Haze. Unfortunately, after they all graduated high school, although the band never officially disbanded, it practically vanished. As adults, none of them were as unrestrained as before, especially Scarlett, who had thrown herself headfirst into love. Scarlett's initial beats reignited the youthful passion in all of them. Chloe suddenly put her fingers in her mouth and whistled sharply. "Listen up, everyone, you're in for a treat tonight. The renowned Summer Haze is performing again. If you have hands, clap. If you have mouths, scream." Chloe always knew how to hype a crowd. Her words instantly ignited the energy of everyone present, whether they knew the band or not. After tuning their instruments, they all looked back at Scarlett. She raised an eyebrow, lifted the drumsticks high, and brought them down with a powerful crash, officially kicking off the night's electrifying atmosphere. Chapter 15. Scarlett is my new goddess. The band Summer Haze took the stage at 1, reigniting their old spark. Scarlett, initially hesitant after 5 years away from the drums, quickly found her rhythm, her sharp beats captivating the audience. Chloe on bass, Lachlan and Greg on guitar, with Lachlan singing lead. They were as dynamic as ever. Their first song ended to thunderous applause and shouts of encore from the packed crowd. The band members exchanged glances, their eyes finally landing on Scarlett. She let out a sharp click of her tongue. Why not? With a stomp of her foot, she launched them into another song, setting the venue ablaze once more. It was 20 minutes later when the four finally descended from the stage, exhilarated. It had been nearly a decade since they'd felt such passion. Chloe was still buzzing. "Oh my God, I feel like we could totally form a band and debut." Scarlett took a bottle of water from Lachlan, glancing sideways at Chloe. "You wouldn't be saying that if we actually debuted." Chloe was like that, loved everything, passionate about music and bass, yes. But the reality of debut, with its endless rules and pressures, would likely make her the first to quit. They weren't teenagers anymore. Lachlan was now a surgeon, holding life and death in his hands. Greg, despite his youthful face, wore suits and managed his family business. Holding on to their youthful passion was rare and precious. Caught by Scarlett's accurate assessment, Chloe gave a sheepish grin. "Scar, wasn't tonight awesome?" Scarlett, taking a sip of water, smiled. "Awesome." Trapped by her relationship with Barnaby for 3 years, she had almost forgotten how carefree and happy she used to be. As they were chatting, Tanya Adams rushed over, accidentally bumping into Scarlett and spilling her water. Lachlan quickly handed over some tissues. Tanya looked sheepish. "Sorry, I was running too fast tonight. Was amazing. I'm just so excited." Scarlett grinned. "You're forgiven." She felt tonight was amazing too. Her heart was still pounding. While the group chatted enthusiastically, Julian Ramsey suddenly appeared. "Scarlett, your drumming was fantastic. A toast to you." Seeing Julian, the smile on Scarlett's face faded slightly. "Mr. Ramsey, long time no see." "Yeah, long time no see, and seeing you again, you give us such a huge surprise." Julian was still riding the high from the performance, completely forgetting how much he used to look down on Scarlett. Chloe caught the key part of his words. "Us, besides you, who else? Don't tell me Barnaby Ainsworth is here too." Scarlett had already spotted Barnaby. He was walking towards them. She raised an eyebrow. "When did you guys get here?" Julian sobered up slightly, looking a bit awkward. "I've been here a while. Barnaby probably got here 10 minutes or so ago." "Oh, well, apologies then for offending Mr. Ainsworth's ears." Just as Scarlett finished speaking, Barnaby arrived right in front of them. Her voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. Barnaby heard her words clearly. The entire place was ecstatic, the applause nearly deafening. Yet, Scarlett said such a performance offended Barnaby's ears. Julian suddenly found Scarlett quite adept at black humor. "Indeed." The man's cold voice cut in. Chloe instantly bristled, about to retort, but Scarlett gently stopped her with a hand gesture, then looked at Barnaby and chuckled. After all, Mr. Ainsworth prefers to hear whimpering. As soon as Scarlett said this, Barnaby's face turned black. The artistry of her sentence was impeccable. 3 months ago, the truth about Lydia Ashton had been revealed, exposing Barnaby's taboo relationship with her. Everyone present understood Scarlett's sarcasm. Even Julian almost couldn't resist giving Scarlett a thumbs up. Damn, she actually dared to confront Barnaby Ainsworth like that. Chapter 17. Can't communicate. Julian Ramsey couldn't resist. He secretly gave Scarlett a thumbs up behind Barnaby's back. Scarlett raised her eyebrows and chuckled softly. "Is there anything else, Mr. Ainsworth?" She spoke lightly, as if she wasn't the one who had just provoked him. Barnaby's face remained cold. He gave her one last look, then turned and walked away expressionlessly. "Did we beg you to listen? Did we beg you to watch? The whole place is shouting, 'Awesome!' And you're the only one who can't appreciate it. I think if you don't want your ears and eyes, you can donate them to someone who needs them." Chloe spat under her breath, muttering quietly. Julian also felt Barnaby was being a killjoy, but ultimately, he was his best friend of over 20 years. After a moment's hesitation, he turned to follow Barnaby. But before leaving, he couldn't resist asking, "Hey, Scarlett, I like rock music too. Maybe we can chat about it sometime?" Chloe rolled her eyes. "Our Scar doesn't travel the same path as you guys. Can't communicate." The phrase sounded familiar. Julian quickly remembered wasn't that what those socialites used to say to subtly mock Scarlett at gatherings. Although he hadn't said it himself back then, his silent observation was tantamount to agreement. Now Chloe used the same words against him. Julian awkwardly rubbed his nose. Gotta go. Whether they could communicate or not, Scarlett had no interest. Besides, Julian was on the same side as Barnaby. Scarlett didn't even want to exchange another word with him. Before leaving, Julian couldn't help looking back again. Scarlett was chatting with her bandmates. That clean-cut lead singer was beside her, swapping her drink for another. Tusk, quite attentive. Julian averted his gaze and hurried after Barnaby. Barnaby had already walked out of one. Julian jogged to catch up. Walking so fast, afraid you'll turn back if you don't. Hearing this, Barnaby shot him a cold, sideways glance. Julian grinned. Gotta say, Scarlett's boyfriend is quite attentive to her. Barnaby frowned, recalling the man who had handed Scarlett tissues. His dark eyes deepened as he pulled open the car door. Something wrong? You came all this way, not gonna have a drink? The response was Barnaby ruthlessly driving away, leaving Julian in the dust. Julian stood on the roadside, watching the black car speed away, and raised his eyebrows. Did Barnaby just drive out here to clear his head? Even Barnaby himself probably wouldn't believe that excuse. This was getting interesting. It seemed his friend wasn't entirely indifferent to his ex-wife, Scarlett. Julian clicked his tongue lightly, intending to go back inside to find Scarlett. He took 2 steps, then reconsidered. Better not. Scarlett didn't seem too fond of him right now. However, Barnaby deeply regretted coming here. Julian's words, implicitly and explicitly, were all aimed at provoking him, suggesting he still had feelings for Scarlett. Feelings. He had chosen Scarlett back then only because of that accidental night, and because he happened to need a wife. But 3 years of marriage, was he truly unmoved? Clearly not. Thinking of the gentle-looking man standing beside Scarlett made Barnaby feel inexplicably irritated. He pulled the car over to the side of the road, opened the window, rested his arm on it, and lit a cigarette. Amidst the swirling smoke, the man's face was as cool as the moonlight. They were divorced. Whether Scarlett had a boyfriend or not had nothing to do with him. Pointless worrying, Barnaby extinguished the cigarette and started the car again, heading home. Chapter 18. He didn't care about anything about her. Scarlett had a bit to drink last night and had called a designated driver to get home. Early the next morning, Chloe's ringtone woke her up before her alarm. What's wrong? Not even 8 a.m. Chloe really embraced life. Scar, you're famous. Someone posted videos of our performance last night online. Now the whole internet is buzzing with the drummer goddess sister hashtag. Everyone's offering big money for you to debut. My hidden treasure girl is finally shining. Scarlett walked to the window, pulled open the curtains with a swift swish. Hearing Chloe's words, she frowned slightly, disagreeing. Isn't the word finally a bit off? The excited Chloe on the other end paused. Oh, sorry, forgot you've been famous before. Scarlett's words might sound conceited, but she had the capital for it. During her freshman year of college, a single photo of Scarlett had gone viral online. Many scouts had tried to contact her back then, but Scarlett refused them all without even meeting them. After so many years, going viral online again, the word finally indeed lacked precision. Keep a low profile. Scarlett smiled faintly, put the phone on speaker, and walked into the bathroom to wash up. Chloe hummed. Low profile, low profile. It's because you're too low profile that the Ainsworths bullied you. Scarlett, who had been a pampered heiress, insisted on marrying into the Ainsworth family under the guise of an ordinary person. The outcome was predictable. Scarlett's hand, squeezing toothpaste, paused slightly. Let's drop it. I'm brushing my teeth. After all, I'm Manager Davenport now, dealing with millions any minute. Yes won't disturb Manager Davenport from making money. Us idle folks will retreat now. Retreat. Hanging up, Scarlett started brushing her teeth. Looking at herself in the mirror, her thoughts drifted. She hadn't intentionally hidden her identity when marrying into the Ainsworth family back then. The events of that night were completely unexpected for her too. Afterwards, when Barnaby proposed marriage, she knew he might be doing it out of guilt or compensation. Later, she tried more than once to explain her family background, but Barnaby always said he didn't care about such things, then immediately took a call or got busy. Later still, She unintentionally overheard Beatrice complaining to Alina about her sister-in-law's poor background, saying she wasn't good enough for Barnaby. Then, at Beatrice's birthday party, listening to Beatrice's close friends among the heiresses make sarcastic remarks, she suddenly lost the desire to tell him. She wanted to see if Barnaby truly didn't care. Only later did she discover that he genuinely didn't care. He didn't care about her family background, nor did he care about her happiness. He didn't care about anything about her. How laughable. The electric toothbrush in her hand suddenly stopped. Scarlett snapped back to reality, pushing aside her thoughts, rinsing her mouth and washing her face. The mushroom and chicken congee she had set to cook on a timer last night was ready, filling the entire kitchen with its rich aroma. Who would have thought that the pampered young lady who never lifted a finger in the kitchen would become an almost all-capable housekeeper after marrying Barnaby? But it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. At least she could enjoy the cooking skills herself. Yes, waking up early to enjoy a bowl of self-cooked congee was indeed a happy thing. However, this morning, Beatrice Ainsworth was about to explode with anger. Scarlett, who had disappeared for months, reappeared and instantly became an internet sensation. What goddess? To her, she looked more like a psycho thinking about how miserable the past few months had been because of Scarlett. Beatrice picked up her phone and made a call. Goddess. She wanted to see if they would still think Scarlett was a goddess later. Chapter 19. She's really good-looking. Scarlett had an early meeting today. By the time it ended, it was already past 11. She had been appointed directly from headquarters, arriving as the second in command, just below the CEO. Within days of Scarlett's arrival, the employees at Apex had already concocted 13 different versions of her airborne appointment story. The most convincing version was that Scarlett was the mistress of some high-level executive at headquarters. This theory gained traction because no one could find any record of Scarlett's work history in the 4 years since graduation. This 4-year gap clearly indicated she had been kept as a prized canary. Although Scarlett planned to take over her family's company, she had no intention of revealing her identity just yet. Therefore, within the company, only Felicity Payne, who had arrived with her, knew she was the group's heiress. Yes, even the CEO, Caleb Duncan, didn't know. Caleb Duncan thought more deeply than the average employee. Headquarters suddenly dropping such a young woman into a high-level position just below his own based on his years of experience, Caleb's first thought was that headquarters wanted to replace him. Attacked from above and below, Scarlett, newly arrived and caught in the middle, faced difficulties. Otherwise, Caleb wouldn't have pushed last night's dinner meeting onto her. However, Scarlett always enjoyed tackling challenges head-on. Since she had requested to come here for training, she wouldn't cry and run back for reinforcements after just a few days. After listening to Felicity's report, Scarlett smiled. Let them talk. After all, during those 3 years with the Ainsworths, she had heard plenty of harsh words. Felicity nodded, then mentioned Caleb Duncan's subtle maneuvers. The North District land plot has already been internally promised to the North family. Caleb giving it to you is clearly meant to put you in your place. Scarlett raised an eyebrow. Vincent North, Felicity confirmed. Yes, him. Scarlett glanced at Felicity, a meaningful smile playing on her lips. Whether this is a put-down or a ladder to climb higher, no one knows until the very end. Caleb wanted to put her in her place, and her competitor was Vincent North, one of Barnaby Ainsworth's close friends. This was getting interesting. Scarlett Davenport had never been one to back down. Who would ultimately get this piece of land remained to be seen. Felicity paused, understanding dawning. Miss Davenport, you have an idea? Scarlett curved her lips into a smile, but remained silent. Felicity understood and didn't press further, handing Scarlett an invitation she had just received. Miss Davenport, this is the invitation to the Ramsey Group's anniversary celebration. Scarlett took the invitation, checked the date Friday evening. Okay. From Scarlett's reaction, Felicity guessed she planned to attend. Chloe, always one to stir up trouble, knew Ramsey Group was the Ramsey family's enterprise. The anniversary celebration would naturally include invitees from the Ainsworth family. She personally selected a gown, had it flown in from Paris, and on Friday afternoon, dragged Scarlett to a beauty salon at 3. After more than 2 hours of pampering and nearly 2 hours of makeup application, their car arrived at the hotel entrance at 7:30 p.m., half an hour after the event had started. All the socialites and heiresses of Nanchang were present tonight. Those who had once laughed at her Scarlett intended to slap each of their faces swollen tonight coincidentally. Just as they got out of the car, Scarlett ran into a leaner Ainsworth and Beatrice Ainsworth. One former mother-in-law, one former sister-in-law. Glamorously dressed, neither Alina nor Beatrice recognized Scarlett at first glance. Looking at Scarlett, Alina even smiled and praised. "Which family's daughter is this? She's really good-looking. It's the first time I've seen her." Beatrice also thought she was beautiful. "Mom, I don't recognize her either, but this lady is truly stunning. When we get inside, I'll ask for her contact info. I can introduce her to brother later, then you won't have to worry about not having a daughter-in-law." Chapter 20. How could Scarlett be here? Scarlett and Chloe walked ahead. After presenting their invitations, they overheard Beatrice and Alina's conversation behind them. They exchanged glances. Scarlett raised an eyebrow but didn't look back. She was curious to see how Beatrice planned to ask for her contact information later. The Ramsay family's status in Nanchang was second only to the Ainsworths. Tonight's Ramsay Group anniversary celebration had drawn nearly everyone of consequence in the city. As soon as Scarlett entered the venue, she saw many familiar faces. Clearly, those familiar faces were equally surprised to see her. Of course, they were surprised. After all, Scarlett, a commoner with no background, should have been nothing after leaving the Ainsworth family. Yet now, the nothing Scarlett had appeared at tonight's prestigious event. Anyone would be astonished. Beside her, Chloe noticed the stares and clicked her tongue. "Haven't they ever seen a beautiful woman before? Why are they all staring at you?" Scarlett raised an eyebrow, took 2 glasses of juice from a passing waiter, handed one to Chloe, took a sip from hers, and smiled faintly. "Probably." Chloe glanced sideways at Scarlett. Although Scarlett's self-assurance was slightly irritating, her face undeniably justified such confidence. She huffed. "So uncultured." Scarlett smiled but didn't respond. Barnaby Ainsworth arrived with Jasper Evans, immediately attracting most of the attention upon entering. Scarlett stood on the edge of the crowd, calmly watching Barnaby walk in step by step, her heart unusually peaceful for the first time. Beside her, Chloe scoffed. "Scar, you have to admit, that jerk Barnaby Ainsworth cleans up nicely. No wonder he's one of the most sought-after bachelors among Nanchang's heiresses." Hearing this, Scarlett glanced at Chloe. "Do I look like someone with terrible taste?" She had to admit, back when she first fell for him, Barnaby's looks played a 70% role. Fair point. Across the crowd, Barnaby's gaze instantly found Scarlett standing next to Chloe. She had completely changed her usual gentle and lovely image. Tonight, her makeup was vivid and bright, and the red dress she wore made it impossible not to notice her. She was chatting with her friend beside her, head slightly bowed, a somewhat careless smile on her face as they talked. Perhaps sensing his gaze, Scarlett looked up. Barnaby averted his eyes, turning his attention to Julian Ramsay, who was approaching. Shortly after entering the venue, Alina had told Beatrice to go find her friends. Beatrice had just found her close friends, Sophia Young and the others, when Joy Carter pulled her aside. "Bea, come quick look, isn't that your former sister-in-law?" Beatrice hated Scarlett now. Hearing Joy's words, she instantly became displeased. "What sister-in-law? What kind of sister-in-law is that toad Scarlett?" Sophia Young chuckled, took her hand, and pointed towards Scarlett. "Look over there, the one in the red dress really looks like Scarlett." Beatrice pursed her lips and followed Sophia's finger. She realized Sophia was pointing at the beautiful woman she and Alina had seen at the entrance. She scoffed. "Looks like her?" Scarlett isn't nearly as the word beautiful caught in Beatrice's throat as she saw the woman turn her face sideways, revealing her profile. Her expression froze. How could Scarlett be here? What right did she have to be here? Chapter 21. Scarlett wouldn't stand for that. Scarlett's main goal tonight was to gather some information about the North District land plot and make some connections. Given she would be spending the next 6 months, possibly even a year or 2, in Nanchang. As the new general manager of Apex, many in the business world had already heard whispers. Compared to the focus of the socialites, the executives were more concerned about Scarlett's appearance and whether it would affect their existing projects with Apex. Of course, smarter individuals might sense something intriguing about the situation. Divorcing Barnaby Ainsworth just recently, and now Merely 3 months later, Scarlett reappearing as the manager of Apex's Nanchang branch. The reasons behind this were certainly thought-provoking. Because of this, many people took the initiative to greet Scarlett. Scarlett was here tonight precisely for networking. She welcomed the greetings. However, prolonged pleasantries inevitably became tiring. Chloe, beside her, was least accustomed to business formalities. Seeing her face practically scrunched up, Scarlett smiled, found an excuse to end the conversation with the man she was talking to, and led Chloe towards the refreshment area. Scarlett swapped her glass of red wine for juice. Just as she looked up, she saw Beatrice Ainsworth approaching menacingly with several of her close friends. "Scarlett, how could you be here?" Scarlett took a sip of grape juice, looked at Beatrice, and smiled faintly. "Why? Am I not allowed to be here?" Scarlett's light, dismissive attitude fueled Beatrice's anger even more. "Don't you have any self-awareness about whether you're qualified to be here? What, whose invitation did you manage to snag this time by latching onto some rich heir?" Hearing Beatrice's words, Chloe couldn't hold back. "Do you even know how to talk? If you don't, go learn how before barking at us. Are you calling me a dog?" Scarlett looked at Beatrice, her smile unwavering. "If you choose to interpret it that way, there's nothing we can do," Beatrice fumed. Her friend Joy Carter leaned in and whispered in her ear, "Call security, get them thrown out." Beatrice's eyes lit up. She pointed a finger at Scarlett. "You just wait, I'm going to get security to throw you two shameless party crashers out." Scarlett was amused by Beatrice. "Okay." Scarlett remained composed, which only infuriated Beatrice more, making her feel choked with anger. The slap from a few days ago was still fresh in her mind. She shot Scarlett a venomous glare. "You just wait." With that, she actually ran off to find security. At such high-profile events, the guests were influential. For security reasons, entry without an invitation was strictly prohibited. Anyone found without one would be immediately ejected, and in serious cases, the police would be called. Say what you will, Joy Carter's idea was quite effective. Scarlett watched them leave, her gaze sweeping over the surrounding onlookers, a slight curve forming on her lips. If Beatrice wanted to humiliate herself, Scarlett was happy to oblige. Beatrice and her friends quickly returned with security guards. Such a commotion attracted a small stir. Beatrice led the guards, strutting up to Scarlett and Chloe on her high heels, looking down her nose at them with an air of superiority. "It's these two who knows whose invitation they stole to get in. They've been acting suspiciously ever since they arrived. Hurry up and throw them out." The Ainsworth family held significant influence, and the guards naturally had to show deference to the third Miss Ainsworth. However, looking at Scarlett and Chloe dressed elegantly, strikingly beautiful, the guards hesitated. Seeing the guards in action, Sophia Young urged them on, "Hurry up and throw them out." B's bracelet almost went missing just now. "They must have stolen it." Sophia's accusation caused the surrounding murmurs to grow louder. The gazes directed at Scarlett and Chloe instantly turned scornful. The two guards had no choice but to step forward. "Mrs., please come with us." Scarlett glanced at Beatrice, then unhurriedly took her invitation from her clutch. "My name is Scarlett Davenport. Could you please check whose name is written on this?" Beatrice scoffed, snatching the invitation. "Who are you trying to fool? This invitation is probably fake too. Who doesn't know your background, Scarlett? Without our Ainsworth family, what right do you have to appear at an occasion like this?" "I have no right." Scarlett wouldn't stand for that. She chuckled softly, looking past Beatrice at the few people who had gathered upon hearing the commotion, her expression turning cold. "Miss Ainsworth, perhaps you should ask Mr. Ramsey if I have the right." Chapter 22. "I can afford it." Julian Ramsey, drawn by the commotion, glanced at Beatrice, then turned to Scarlett. "What's going on?" "Julian, Scarlett snuck in here trying to steal things. My bracelet was almost stolen by her just now. Hurry up and get security to throw these two thieves out before some important guest loses something valuable." Hearing Beatrice's accusation, Scarlett almost laughed out loud in anger. Miss Ainsworth's ability to lie through her teeth is truly impressive. Caught in the middle, Julian tried to mediate. "This must be a misunderstanding. Miss Davenport is our invited guest. You're mistaken." Julian's words hit Beatrice like a slap. Her face turned shades of green and white. After causing such a scene, she was now told that Scarlett was actually invited by the Ramseys. The onlookers glanced between Beatrice and Scarlett. Beatrice looked livid and pale, while Scarlett stood calmly composed, her face coolly indifferent. The contrast made it obvious who was in the wrong. Beatrice refused to let Scarlett off so easily. Even though Julian had confirmed Scarlett was invited, she had come too far. If she backed down now, she'd suffocate from the humiliation. "Then I demand she apologize to me. She almost swiped my bracelet just now." This wasn't the first time Beatrice had blatantly framed her. During her 3 years with the Ainsworths, Beatrice had set her up no less than 3 times. Now Beatrice was using the same tactic again. Did she really think Scarlett was a fool? Chloe, standing beside her, trembled with anger. Just as she was about to speak, Scarlett held up a hand to stop her. She glanced back at Chloe. Chloe paused, understood, and gritted her teeth, holding back her retort. "You want me to apologize, is that it?" Beatrice snorted. "Obviously, if we hadn't caught you in the act, you probably would have stolen this bracelet already." She kept repeating the word stole, yet Scarlett hadn't even come near her since entering the party. Scarlett picked up 3 glasses of red wine from a nearby tray. A 3-glass penalty, is that enough? Beatrice clearly felt it wasn't enough, but she also knew making a bigger scene wouldn't look good. As long as she managed to tread on Scarlett, she considered it a win. "I'll be generous and won't pursue it further." Hearing Beatrice's words, Scarlett actually laughed. "Miss Ainsworth is indeed generous." She paused. "By the way, may I ask how much your bracelet cost, Miss Ainsworth?" "It's a limited edition, over $300,000, not that you could afford it." Scarlett raised an eyebrow, carried the 3 glasses of red wine, and walked right up to Beatrice. Leaning down slightly, she looked at her coldly. "Sorry, Miss Ainsworth, but I'm not one to suffer losses silently." As she spoke, she lifted the 3 glasses of wine above Beatrice's head. With a twist of her wrist, all 3 glasses of red wine cascaded down onto Beatrice. "Ah!" Beatrice shrieked in disbelief. But it wasn't over. Scarlett tossed the empty wine glasses aside, grabbed Beatrice's wrist. Just as she was about to act, Barnaby Ainsworth, who had been watching coldly from the sidelines, suddenly reached out and grasped her wrist. "That's enough, Scarlett, enough," Scarlett scoffed. "But from my perspective, it's far from enough." As she spoke, her hand tightened, and she ripped the bracelet straight off Beatrice's wrist. Beatrice hadn't even recovered from having wine poured over her when her bracelet was torn off by Scarlett. She screamed, about to lunge at Scarlett, but in the next second, Scarlett tossed a check onto her face. "A mere $400,000 bracelet. I can afford it." Chapter 23, "Isn't this humiliating enough?" After tossing the check, Scarlett glanced back at Chloe. "Let's go." Chloe nodded. Before leaving, she looked at Beatrice, seemingly puzzled. "Is she not right in the head?" Scarlett shrugged. "Who knows?" Chloe snorted. "Just 400,000? Who does she think she's looking down on?" Their voices weren't loud, but loud enough for anyone paying attention to hear. Hearing this, Beatrice exploded. "Scarlett, you stop right there." She started to chase after Scarlett, but the next second Barnaby grabbed her arm. Beatrice, furious and caught, turned back intending to lash out, but seeing Barnaby's face, she froze, her eyes instantly turning red. "Brother, isn't this humiliating enough?" First, they accused Scarlett of crashing the party with a fake invitation. When that failed, they accused her of stealing the bracelet. Yet, Scarlett hadn't offered a single word of explanation. By simply ripping off the bracelet and paying for it, her actions clearly demonstrated she had no interest in Beatrice's 300,000 bracelet. Just then, someone in the crowd murmured, "Wow, those earrings Scarlett is wearing look like they're from the Gulf Pearl series." Probably fakes. Everyone knows the Gulf Pearl series is sold as sets, not individually. A full set costs over 30 million USD. That's nearly 200 million. No, look, the pearl and diamond bracelet on Scarlett's wrist seems to be part of the same set as her earrings. I've been eyeing it forever, but couldn't afford it. It's real, definitely real. It was common knowledge that the Gulf Pearl series, composed of natural Harry Winston pearls and diamonds, was beloved by royalty, a favorite of princesses. Reportedly, each set including necklace, ring, earrings, and bracelet cost no less than 30 million USD, sold only as a complete set. Globally, only 3 sets had ever been produced, and all were sold. This revelation caused many to look closely at the bracelet and earrings Scarlett was wearing. Most people present were of considerable status and had seen fine jewelry before. Scarlett's earrings and bracelet, made entirely of diamonds and pearls, sparkled brilliantly under the lights. The quality was undeniable. Even in the bright lights of the grand ballroom, Scarlett's earrings shone dazzlingly, the pearls full and lustrous. Even if they were replicas, they would have to be made of top-quality pearls and diamonds. Such an amount of high-quality gems would cost millions, if not tens of millions. The jewelry Scarlett's wearing must be worth over $1 million, right? If so, she really wouldn't need to steal that 300,000 bracelet. Exactly, didn't you recognize it? The style of Scarlett's dress looks very much like Toto's designs. You can't find this dress on the market. It's clearly custom-made. I had a Toto custom dress made for my birthday last year, and the minimum cost was $300,000. This is interesting. Miss Ainsworth claimed Scarlett wanted to steal her bracelet. The surrounding chatter intensified. Beatrice, who had been about to say something more, felt as though she had been slapped repeatedly by invisible hands upon hearing the discussions. Beatrice gritted her teeth, staring venomously at the directions Scarlett had left. She would get revenge for this, sooner or later. Chapter 24. All right, then I'll wait for her. The fiasco quickly spread throughout their social circle that night. Nanchang wasn't huge, but it wasn't tiny either, and the circle of influential people was relatively small. The Ainsworth family was the foremost of Nanchang's 4 major families. Beatrice Ainsworth, as the family's only daughter, had lived a life of privilege and prestige until tonight. However, tonight she had utterly lost face. Scarlett had silently proven she didn't give a damn about her 300,000 bracelet. Beatrice practically fled to the restroom in tears. Julian Ramsey looked at the check on the floor and bent down to pick it up. Well now, it really was written for $400,000, not a cent less. Julian looked up at Barnaby. This check isn't fake, is it? Where did Scarlett get that kind of money? Barnaby looked at the check in Julian's hand, recalling Scarlett's cold expression as she poured wine over Beatrice's head. He frowned slightly. Are you short 400,000? Julian raised an eyebrow. I'm just curious. Barnaby gave him a cold, sideways glance. Curiosity killed the cat. Did he have to be that harsh? But Scarlett had indeed been quite ruthless tonight. After this mess, Beatrice would likely be the butt of jokes in their circle for a long time. Thinking of this, Julian couldn't help asking again, is this matter just over? Of course, the matter wasn't over, but it had nothing to do with Julian Ramsey. Barnaby averted his gaze, took the check, and walked straight through the crowd towards the exit. Scarlett and Chloe left early. The driver hadn't expected them back so soon and was stunned when he received the call. Miss Davenport, I'm so sorry, I'll be right there to pick you up. Scarlett heard the lively noise in the background and chuckled softly. No rush, Uncle Wang, enjoy your meal first. I'm just going to the restroom. Saying that, Scarlett hung up the phone, walked over to the public seating area in the lobby on her high heels, and sat down. The earrings were heavy and uncomfortable. Scarlett took them off while looking speechlessly at Chloe. You even brought out something this valuable. If your mom finds out, she'll definitely give you a beating. Chloe snorted. When my mom heard I was lending them to you, she gave me the whole set without a second thought. If I didn't know you definitely wouldn't like the necklace, I would have brought the entire set. Scarlett smiled, placing the removed earrings back into their protective pouch, then started taking off the bracelet. Thank Auntie Isabel for me. You're being so polite. If my mom heard that, she'd get angry. Scarlett thought about it and agreed. She put the removed bracelet and earrings away safely, handed them to Chloe, and then thought about snatching the bracelet earlier, feeling a bit lost in thought. Seeing her silence, Chloe raised an eyebrow. What are you thinking? Don't tell me you regret pouring wine on Beatrice. All the things she did to you before, adding it all up, you could have poured dog poop on her head. Scarlett snapped back to reality. I do regret it, but not pouring wine on her. Chloe was puzzled. Then, what do you regret? Regret paying her 400,000. Chloe looked at Scarlett. You're not short of money. 400,000 to humiliate her. I think it's worth it. I'm not short of money, but my money didn't grow on trees either. Why should I give her tens of thousands extra? Couldn't she buy a nice bag with that extra money? Or at the very least, a set of skincare products. Just as they were talking, a cold male voice suddenly came from nearby. You don't need to pay, but you need to apologize to be. Barnaby finished speaking, walked over, and placed the check Scarlett had left behind in front of her. Scarlett looked up at him, then reached out and took back the recovered $400,000. After doing this, Scarlett stood up, meeting Barnaby's gaze directly. "And if I don't apologize, then don't blame her for causing trouble for you." Scarlett curved her lips into a smile. "All right, then I'll wait for her." Barnaby was choked by her response. Looking at the smile in Scarlett's eyes, he felt inexplicably angry, his tone becoming even colder. "Suit yourself." With that, he turned and walked back inside. Barnaby felt he shouldn't have come out. But knowing Beatrice's personality, she wouldn't let tonight's incident go so easily. Scarlett might have seemed victorious tonight, but Beatrice had plenty of opportunities to trip her up behind the scenes if it weren't for the fact that she had been his wife for 3 years. He wouldn't have wanted to get involved in these tedious matters at all, but she refused to appreciate his kindness. Since that was the case, he would just wait for her to come crawling back to him. Chapter 25. Is this all Beatrice Ainsworth is capable of? Scarlett had fully intended to settle the score with Beatrice Ainsworth. After the events at the Ramsey Group anniversary party, where Beatrice had falsely accused her and Scarlett had retaliated, Barnaby's warning only solidified her resolve. Beatrice wouldn't let it go, and neither would Scarlett. However, before dealing with Beatrice, there was another loose end. Harold Shaw, the CEO of Shaw Corp. The connection wasn't immediately obvious, but Scarlett suspected Shaw's involvement in the setup attempt that Friday night, likely instigated by Beatrice. Business first, revenge later. She needed to handle the contract renewal with Shaw Corp, or rather, find a replacement. The incident where his secretary's car broke down on a deserted road, leading to the confrontation with the motorcyclists, smelled suspiciously like a setup orchestrated potentially with Shaw's knowledge. If not direct involvement, likely influenced by Beatrice's desire for revenge. Scarlett decided it was time to cut ties with Shaw Corp and show both Shaw and the meddling Caleb Duncan at Apex the consequences of messing with her. Chapter 26. Would this person be so kind? Scarlett and Felicity Payne got caught in traffic on the way. By the time they arrived at the hotel, they were just 5 minutes shy of the agreed meeting time. Getting out of the car, Scarlett strode inside on her high heels. The private room was on the 4th floor. During dinner time, the elevator was crowded, stopping at each floor. Scarlett glanced down at her watch. As she looked up, her peripheral vision caught a familiar figure outside on the 3rd floor. Beatrice Ainsworth. She raised an eyebrow, averted her gaze, and the elevator doors slowly closed. A few seconds later, the elevator stopped again. Scarlett stepped out. When she reached the private room door, it wasn't fully closed. Harold Shaw inside seemed to be on the phone. His voice wasn't loud, but as Scarlett pushed the door open, she faintly heard the phrase, "Miss Ainsworth." Scarlett raised an eyebrow, glancing sideways at Felicity beside her. Felicity nodded slightly and knocked on the door. "Mr. Shaw." As soon as Felicity spoke, Harold Shaw inside hung up the phone. Scarlett walked in, meeting Shaw's gaze with a smile. "Apologies, Mr. Shaw. There was some traffic on the way. I'm late." Shaw smiled back at her, seemingly unbothered by her tardiness. "Manager Davenport, you're too kind. It's Friday, traffic is normal. My apologies." Manager Davenport is truly too polite. "Since you feel so bad, how about you penalize yourself with a drink?" Shaw finished speaking, then thoughtfully asked, "Is your alcohol tolerance all right, Miss Davenport? If not, we can skip it. I'll have the wine removed and replaced with juice." Scarlett took her seat, looking at Harold Shaw before her, wondering what game he was playing, being so polite. But business had its ways. Scarlett knew this drink was unavoidable. "My tolerance is all right. I'll drink this first to apologize for my lateness, Mr. Shaw." She raised the half-filled glass of red wine before her and downed it in one go. Shaw laughed heartily. "Manager Davenport is indeed straightforward. I enjoy dealing with people like you." Scarlett curved her lips slightly. "You flatter me, Mr. Shaw." Harold Shaw was an old fox, always sniffing around for profit. Apex and Shaw Corp had cooperated for a long time, and continuing the partnership was tacitly understood. But Shaw wasn't like that. For money, he could shamelessly renegotiate. However, he and Caleb Duncan seemed to be cut from the same cloth. Who knew how they planned to make things difficult for Scarlett? Throughout the dinner, Scarlett drank quite a bit of wine and exchanged numerous pleasantries, but every time the topic of contract renewal came up, Caleb Duncan would either plead poverty or feign difficulty. In short, the message was clear. He still needed to consider the renewal. Scarlett knew she wouldn't achieve much tonight. The fact that Harold Shaw hadn't stormed off already made the dinner seem relatively harmonious. Understanding the implication in Shaw's words, Scarlett didn't push further. After some polite exchanges, she began making closing remarks. "Mr. Shaw, let me see you out." Shaw glanced at Scarlett. "Manager Davenport, you're too kind. It's not easy for you and your secretary, two young women. You've both had quite a bit to drink tonight. Let my assistant drive you home." This was Scarlett's first interaction with Harold Shaw. Hearing his words, she momentarily couldn't tell if he was being genuine or deceitful. Would Harold Shaw be this kind? But since he had offered, Scarlett wanted to see what trick he had up his sleeve. "Then I won't be polite. Thank you in advance." Shaw waved his hand dismissively, glancing at his assistant. "Secretary Lewis, please ensure Manager Davenport and Secretary Payne get home safely, understand?" "Yes, Mr. Shaw." They all went down to the hotel entrance together. Shaw got into his car. His secretary turned back to Scarlett. "Manager Davenport, let me drive you." Scarlett raised an eyebrow. "Thank you." Neither she nor Felicity had bought a car yet. It seemed buying one was becoming necessary for convenience. Shaw's secretary wasn't talkative. Scarlett sat in the back seat, Felicity in the passenger seat. She had drunk quite a bit tonight and felt dizzy during the ride. When the car suddenly stopped, Scarlett frowned slightly. Chapter 27, You scared my friend. Just as Scarlett was about to ask what was happening, Harold Shaw's secretary spoke up. "Manager Davenport, Secretary Payne, apologies, the car seems to have broken down." "It's all right," Scarlett replied. The car felt stuffy, so she got out. Shaw's secretary was on the phone, calling for assistance. Felicity walked up to her, worried. "Miss Davenport." Scarlett looked down at her and smiled faintly. "Don't be afraid. We live in a society with laws. Shaw wouldn't dare do anything too outrageous." Scarlett had just finished speaking when the loud roar of engines approached. Her smile faded slightly as she looked up and saw 3 or 4 motorcycles speeding towards them from behind. The headlights were blindingly bright. Scarlett raised a hand to shield her eyes, squinting. With a screech, a heavy motorcycle skidded to a halt right in front of her. "Hey beautiful, need some help." The man spoke with a sleazy tone, his clothes worn loosely, a green dragon tattoo visible on his neck. As soon as he finished speaking, the other motorcycles pulled up, surrounding Scarlett and Felicity. Felicity stepped forward, shielding Scarlett, and stared coldly at the man. "No need, thank you." The man scoffed, his expression suddenly turning vicious. "I wasn't asking you. Why are you butting in?" Scarlett gently pulled Felicity back, meeting the man's gaze with a smile. "I need to get to the police station. Can you help?" "Sure." The man lit a cigarette, squinting as he looked at Scarlett. "If a beauty like you asks, never mind the police station, I'd go through fire and water for you." The smile on Scarlett's face faded. "I already called the police." "Called the police? That's funny, beautiful, we're just trying to help. Calling the police is a waste of resources. What are you gonna tell the officers later? That my tattoo scared you?" Just then, Shaw's secretary hung up the phone and walked over, sternly asking, "What are you people doing?" "Get lost, none of your business." Shaw's secretary didn't leave, standing protectively in front of Scarlett. But 2 of the other men got off their bikes and forcibly pulled him away. The leader dismounted his bike and walked straight up to Scarlett. "Beautiful, do me the honor, how about a late-night snack together? Don't be scared, Big Brother isn't a bad guy." The man paused. "If you don't do me the honor, that's fine too. But out here in the middle of nowhere, I wonder if your friend can handle a cold night alone." Scarlett had noticed how deserted this road was as soon as she got out of the car, likely deliberately chosen by Shaw's secretary. But now wasn't the time to dwell on that. She and Felicity were like fish on a chopping block, helpless against whatever the others planned. Scarlett clicked her tongue lightly, raising an eyebrow with a smile. "I can grant you the honor, but you scared my friend." Under the moonlight, Scarlett's smile was as alluring as a siren's. The man cursed silently, steadying himself. "Oh, then I apologize to this young lady." He then turned back to Scarlett. "Beautiful," he pointed to the back seat of his bike, indicating for Scarlett to get on. "Miss Davenport," Felicity couldn't help but grab Scarlett's arm, not wanting her to go. Scarlett shook her head at her. Before leaving, she quickly traced 110 on Felicity's palm with her finger. Felicity understood Scarlett's meaning, but she was still worried. However, they were outnumbered, and one of their own was a traitor who had conveniently disappeared. It was eerily quiet, the roadside overgrown with weeds. In this situation, Felicity knew that even if they tried to run, they wouldn't get far. Scarlett's approach was undoubtedly the most sensible, but Scarlett was the Davenport family's only heiress. Before she came, Sebastian Davenport had repeatedly instructed her to take good care of Scarlett. The Davenport family had given her opportunities she wouldn't have otherwise had. How could Felicity bear to watch Scarlett walk into the lion's den alone? "Secretary Payne, it's getting late. Go back and rest early. We have an early meeting tomorrow." Scarlett saw through her thoughts and directly told Felicity to leave first. Felicity opened her mouth to protest, but Scarlett was already being half pushed, half pulled onto the bike by the man. Soon, the motorcycles roared away with a vroom, disappearing without a trace. Chapter 28. I advise you not to touch me. As soon as the motorcycles disappeared, Harold Shaw's secretary approached Felicity, feigning concern. Felicity gave him an expressionless look. "You better pray nothing happens to Miss Davenport. Otherwise, no one can protect you," Shaw's secretary scoffed inwardly but put on a puzzled facade. Felicity took out her phone, about to call the police, when she received a message from Scarlett via WeChat, sharing my location. "Notify Chloe, have them come find me. Don't call the police yet." The motorcycles roared for over 20 minutes before stopping in front of a bar. Scarlett got off the bike herself, looking at the man before her with a smirk. Late-night snacks at a bar. You wouldn't understand. Bars are where the night truly comes alive. Scarlett didn't say anything. They had brought her here. Escape was impossible. She calmly followed the man into the bar. Seeing her composure, the man raised an eyebrow. "Beautiful, you've got guts." Scarlett glanced at him sideways but didn't speak, stepping into the private room. As soon as she entered, the man brought over a glass of whiskey. "I won't make things difficult for you. Seeing as you're cooperative, drink this and you can leave." Scarlett looked at the glass of whiskey in his hand, raising an eyebrow. "And if I don't drink it? Then you're not playing smart, and I don't like people who aren't smart." The moment the man finished speaking, Scarlett reached out, took the glass, tilted her head back, and downed it in one gulp. After finishing, she turned the glass upside down. "I drank it. Can I go now?" Clap, clap, clap. The man applauded. "Impressive, go ahead." He gestured towards the door, indicating she was free to leave. Scarlett didn't move. She knew the drink was likely drugged. She walked further into the room and sat down directly on the sofa. Seeing her stay, the man was taken aback. "You're not leaving? I feel a bit dizzy. Can I sit for a while?" "Sure, whatever you like." The man looked at Scarlett on the sofa, a rare flicker of compassion crossing his face. "But I still think you should go back. It's getting late, and it might not be safe later." Scarlett looked at the man. "How is it not safe?" The man didn't answer her question. He waved dismissively at the two men guarding the door, and the three of them quickly left. Scarlett sat for only a short while before feeling hot. The private room wasn't heated. It wasn't warm enough for her to feel hot this time of year. She quickly realized the drink contained a date rape drug. She immediately took out her phone and dialed Felicity, asking where they were. Felicity had contacted Chloe as soon as she received Scarlett's message. They had met up and were heading towards Scarlett's location. The map now showed they were about 5 kilometers away. Just as Scarlett hung up, the private room door was pushed open. Scarlett didn't recognize the newcomers, but they recognized her. "Miss Davenport, we're just doing a job we were paid for. Sorry to offend you." The man spoke, then smirked at the two men behind him. "Go ahead. With Miss Davenport's looks and figure, you guys are getting lucky." His words were vulgar and lewd. As he spoke, he positioned his camera. "Make sure you get her clothes off properly. Don't block Miss Davenport's face. Remember these 2 points?" The man finished speaking and turned to leave. Scarlett gritted her teeth. "How much did they pay you?" The man paused, turning back to look at the flushed Scarlett, and chuckled. "Miss Davenport, I have professional integrity." He paused again, muttering under his breath, "They wanted it outdoors. Wonder if this footage will pass." With that, he closed the door and left. Scarlett felt weak and hot, her consciousness blurring. She glanced at the 2 large men in front of her who were starting to undress. "I advise you not to touch me." The 2 men seemed to hear a joke. They quickly stripped off their clothes down to their boxers, exchanged glances, and simultaneously walked towards Scarlett. "Don't be nervous, Miss Davenport. We provide excellent service. Chapter 29. What comes around goes around. Scarlett curled her lip, digging her nails into her palm. She grabbed the ashtray from the table and hurled it with all her might at one of the men. Her movement was swift and forceful. The man cried out in pain. Just then, the private room door was suddenly kicked open. Chloe Sullivan and Lachlan Sinclair rushed in. Chloe. Scarlett's remaining consciousness was focused solely on them. Chloe saw Scarlett's glazed eyes and flushed face, trembling with rage. "It's me, where does it hurt?" "I've been drugged, Chloe." Chloe touched Scarlett and found her burning hot. Seeing this, she quickly turned to Lachlan. "Lachlan, quick, get Scar to the hospital." Lachlan went over and lifted Scarlett into his arms. By now, Scarlett had almost no strength left, feeling like she was about to shatter as Lachlan held her. Felicity Payne saw Scarlett being carried out and rushed forward anxiously. "Miss Sullivan, how is Miss Davenport?" "She was drugged. We're taking her to the hospital. I have people coming. Miss Sullivan, you should take Miss Davenport to the hospital first." Felicity needed someone to investigate tonight's incident thoroughly. Chloe nodded. "Be careful." Scarlett wasn't in good shape. She was clutching Lachlan's clothes so tightly they nearly tore. Chloe quickly got into the car, slammed the accelerator, and sped to the nearest hospital. Scarlett received an IV drip and gradually regained consciousness. After the drug wore off, she felt weak. Looking at Chloe before her, she frowned slightly. "What time is it?" "A little past 2. How are you feeling?" "Still unwell." Scarlett shook her head, sat up, and took a sip of water Chloe handed her. Seeing her like this, Chloe's heart ached. "Just sleep. You're in the hospital, everything's fine, Scar." Scarlett did feel drained. She glanced at Lachlan, lay back down, and quickly fell asleep. When she woke again, it was past 8 the next morning. Chloe was curled up on the small companion bed nearby. Scarlett sat up, rubbing her temples. Lachlan entered with Kanji, accompanied by Felicity. Chloe woke up too. Felicity glanced at Scarlett on the bed. "Miss Davenport, are you still feeling unwell?" If they had been even slightly later last night, the consequences would have been unthinkable. Scarlett shook her head. "Much better." She paused. "Did you find out who was behind last night's incident?" "It was Miss Ainsworth." "Beatrice Ainsworth?" Chloe leaped to her feet. Beside her, Lachlan frowned as well. Scarlett wasn't surprised. She had suspected as much last night. She just hadn't expected Beatrice to be so vicious. "Scar, you're not going to just let this go this time, are you?" Chloe was simmering with anger, her face dark. Thinking about last night, Scarlett's expression turned cold. She looked up at Chloe, raising an eyebrow. "Let it go," she scoffed. "Do I look like someone with no manners?" What comes around goes around. Beatrice had prepared such a grand gift for her. Naturally, she had to return the favor hearing her words. Chloe blinked. "So, what are you planning to do?" Scarlett smiled faintly. "An eye for an eye." Chloe looked at the smile on Scarlett's face and silently lit a candle for Beatrice Ainsworth. Seriously, who did Beatrice think she was messing with? Scarlett. This heiress, who had rarely suffered a loss at anyone's hands since childhood. Beatrice had truly kicked an iron plate this time. Chapter 30. Then it's Beatrice Ainsworth's turn, of course. Before dealing with Beatrice Ainsworth, Scarlett had someone else to settle accounts with first. After being discharged from the hospital, Scarlett went back to her apartment, showered, and changed. By the time she left, she was once again the radiant manager Davenport. Upon arriving at the office, Felicity Payne already had several documents prepared. "Miss Davenport, these are some of the real estate agencies that have developed well in recent years." Scarlett raised an eyebrow, took the files, and briefly skimmed through them. "Which one do you think is better, Secretary Payne?" "Etha Corp," Felicity elaborated, glancing at Scarlett. "Although this company was founded less than 10 years ago, my investigation shows that Etha has an excellent reputation in all aspects within the industry." "All right, Etha it is. Please contact their person in charge for me." "Yes, Miss Davenport." Did Harold Shaw really think Apex couldn't function without Shaw Corp? Since he dared to make a move against her at Beatrice Ainsworth's behest, she would let Shaw taste the bitterness of trying to steal a chicken only to lose the rice used as bait as one of the companies under the Davenport Group umbrella. Apex had significant backing. Being noticed by Apex was naturally something Etha Corp eagerly sought. Hearing that Apex's new manager was interested in collaborating with Etha's CEO, Zachary Cameron, immediately rushed back from out of town, specifically for this dinner meeting with Scarlett. Scarlett got straight to the point, directly proposing the intention to cooperate. Zachary Cameron was flattered. "Manager Davenport, may I be so bold as to ask why you chose our Etha Corp?" Scarlett raised an eyebrow. "Why does Mr. Cameron think Etha lacks the capability?" Zachary Cameron paused, looking at the Scarlett before him, surprised that such a beautiful young woman was, in fact, a rose with thorns. After 2 seconds, Zachary Cameron laughed. "Pleasure doing business with you, Manager Davenport. Pleasure doing business with you." Having resolved such a major issue, Scarlett was in a good mood. She turned her head to look at Felicity. "I wonder if Mr. Duncan will get high blood pressure from anger when he finds out about this." They all wanted to put her in her place. Did they really think Scarlett Davenport was easy to bully? News of Scarlett and Zachary Cameron's meeting quickly spread within their circles. Caleb Duncan, upon hearing about it, called Scarlett that very evening. Scarlett deftly deflected, "I believe Etha is fully capable of handling the job." On the other end of the line, Caleb Duncan's face flushed red. Scarlett added another blow. "Moreover, Etha's quote is only 3/4 of Shaw Corp's. Trying out new partners is not necessarily a bad thing." This statement effectively silenced Caleb Duncan. Scarlett had anticipated his opposition, so when negotiating with Zachary Cameron, she had explicitly requested a lower quote than Shaw Corp's to shut down potential objections. Zachary Cameron was also astute. This was a great opportunity. Earning slightly less money was secondary. Etha needed the chance, and this was it. Hanging up the phone, Scarlett raised an eyebrow, glancing at the night view outside the floor-to-ceiling window, her smile deepening. "That score is settled. Then it's Beatrice Ainsworth's turn." Coincidentally, tomorrow was the weekend. Thinking of this, Scarlett took out her phone and called Felicity Payne. Secretary Payne was truly dedicated, answering instantly even this late. "Miss Davenport, good evening." "Good evening, Secretary Payne. I need to ask you a favor. Please tell me." Scarlett took a sip of warm water. "Tomorrow, I want to settle the debt Beatrice Ainsworth owes me from the night before last. Please find a few people for me. Tomorrow night, bring Beatrice Ainsworth to Night Feast Bar to meet me." Felicity understood immediately. "Yes, Miss Davenport." Hanging up, Scarlett turned and went into the bathroom. Time for a shower, then wake up tomorrow morning to settle things properly with Beatrice Ainsworth. Chapter 31. I also like to collect with interest. When Chloe learned that Scarlett planned to settle the score with Beatrice Ainsworth today, she was excited all day. By 7 in the evening, she had already rushed over to Scarlett's apartment. "Scar, I've got the stuff ready for you safe, no residue, guaranteed untraceable after 24 hours, Scarlett smiled faintly. "Good." Chloe could barely contain herself. Beatrice had been arrogant for so long, and the night before last, she even dared to have people harm Scarlett. If Scarlett hadn't insisted on handling it personally, Chloe would have gathered people yesterday, kicked down the Ainsworth's door, and dragged Beatrice out for a beating. "Isn't it about time? Should we head over to Night Feast now? Your people should have brought her there already, right?" Scarlett glanced sideways at her. "What's the rush? Isn't it better to let her stew in despair a little longer?" Chloe paused, then realization dawned, and she clicked her tongue. "You know, that makes a lot of sense." They set off at 8, arriving at Night Feast Bar exactly at past. Beatrice had already been locked in the private room for over an hour. The soundproofing in Night Feast's rooms was excellent. The door was locked from the outside. She had screamed until her voice was hoarse, but no one paid her any attention. Initially, she trembled with anger, but as more time passed locked up, fear gradually set in. Given the Ainsworth family's status in Linchester, logically, no one should dare touch her. Yet, just over an hour ago, she had been dragged off the street into a car in broad daylight, right under the public eye. Then she was brought here. The people who brought her left after putting her in the room, locking the door behind them. Until now, no one had come to check on her. When the door was pushed open, Beatrice, having imagined countless horrific scenarios, saw Scarlett and froze for a moment. Then, understanding dawned and fury surged through her. "Did you have someone bring me here?" Scarlett looked at Beatrice, a faint smile playing on her lips. Surprised, "What do you want?" "Shouldn't I be asking you that, Miss Ainsworth? You must regret what happened the night before last, don't you?" Hearing Scarlett mention the night before last, Beatrice's face stiffened. I don't know what you're talking about." Scarlett gave her a knowing, half-smiling look, then poured a glass of red wine right in front of Beatrice before looking towards Chloe. Chloe was ready. She took the pill packet out of her bag and handed it to Scarlett. Scarlett took it, opened the packet, and dropped the pill into the red wine right before Beatrice's eyes. After doing this, Scarlett looked back at Beatrice. "Miss Ainsworth, I told you last time I don't take losses lightly." She swirled the wine in her glass. "Losses I've suffered I will collect, and I also like to collect with interest." Scarlett finished speaking, walked over, grabbed Beatrice's chin forcefully, and pressed the wine glass against her lips. Beatrice, panicked and guilty, tried to shake her head, but Scarlett's grip was surprisingly strong. Her chin held fast, red wine was forced into her mouth. She tried to spit it out but couldn't close her mouth. Beatrice struggled, but Chloe held her hands firmly. Her eyes red, she glared fiercely at Scarlett. Scarlett looked down, the smile on her face unchanging, her movements calm and deliberate as she poured the wine steadily into Beatrice's mouth. With a loud bang, just as Scarlett finished pouring the last drop of wine, the door was kicked open. She tossed the wine glass aside, pulled out a tissue from nearby, and slowly wiped her fingers. Seeing Barnaby Ainsworth and Julian Ramsay arrive, Beatrice immediately ran over. "Brother, she drugged me, she's going to have someone rape me." Chapter 32. Does Miss Ainsworth want to kneel? Beatrice sobbed as she accused Scarlett. Scarlett stood there, unfazed, an inexplicable chill emanating from her, watching Beatrice and the men at the door with cool detachment. Beatrice looked utterly disheveled, clinging to Barnaby's arm and crying. Barnaby's face was dark, his gaze towards Scarlett sharp enough to devour her. Beside him, Julian Ramsay sucked in a breath. "Scarlett, isn't this taking it too far?" Chloe rolled her eyes. "Miss Ainsworth sure knows how to play the victim. She started this whole thing, and now that she's scared, she's the first to point fingers." After wiping her hands, Scarlett finally spared Barnaby a glance. "You got here quickly," she scoffed. "If the Ainsworth family won't teach Miss Ainsworth a lesson, then I'll reluctantly help out." She finished speaking, looked back at Chloe. "Let's go grab a late-night snack." Scarlett turned towards the door, acting as if nothing had happened. And naturally, as if Barnaby didn't exist. However, just as she reached the doorway, the stone-faced Barnaby suddenly reached out and grabbed her arm. "Apologize. Are you sure you want me to apologize, Mr. Ainsworth?" Hearing his words, Scarlett turned her head to look at him, a slight curve to her lips, her almond eyes holding a touch of coolness. Just then, Beatrice, emboldened by her backup, shrieked, "I don't want her apology, I want her to kneel outside the door." Beatrice had never suffered such humiliation in her life. Scarlett chuckled softly, looking at Beatrice with a half-smile. "Does Miss Ainsworth want to kneel?" "Scarlett," Barnaby snapped, her arrogant attitude thoroughly infuriating him. Scarlett's gaze made Beatrice tremble slightly. She shrank back, hiding behind Barnaby. "She drugged me, brother." Hearing her words, Barnaby frowned slightly. "Go to the hospital." But Beatrice didn't want to leave. She felt unwilling. She wanted to see Scarlett beg her. "No, brother, she drugged me. I want to call the police. She kidnapped me and drugged me." "Fine, I'll call the police for Miss Ainsworth." Scarlett took out her phone and dialed 110 directly. However, just before hitting call, she looked at Beatrice again and added, "And while we're at it, let's investigate the incident the night before last when I was taken away mid-journey." Beatrice's heart clenched with guilt. Coupled with the drug taking effect inside her, her legs gave way, and she slumped against Barnaby's arm, sliding towards the floor. Barnaby caught her. Beatrice glanced at Scarlett, who was watching her intently. "I've called the police." "Miss Ainsworth, just hold on a little longer. We'll go to the station and give our statements." Beatrice suddenly felt afraid of Scarlett. What she did wasn't exactly covert. If it were truly investigated, she could end up in jail. The thought terrified Beatrice. "Brother, I feel awful. I want to go to the hospital. I feel so sick." Barnaby's face remained cold. He lifted Beatrice into his arms. Before leaving, he shot Scarlett one last icy glare. Scarlett met his gaze directly, unflinching, watching him calmly. Beatrice initially exaggerated her discomfort, but as time passed and the drug's effects intensified, she genuinely felt increasingly unwell. By now, her mind was somewhat muddled. She cried, screamed, and tore at her own clothes. Barnaby didn't linger any longer, carrying Beatrice off to the hospital. Chloe pouted, somewhat disappointed. Should have come earlier, waited for the drug to kick in for Beatrice, then tossed her outside. See if she'd still be so arrogant. Scarlett also felt a twinge of regret, but she knew the drug's effects weren't pleasant. Forget it. Let her off the hook this time. If there was a next time, she wouldn't be so lenient. Chapter 33, maybe not anymore. As the drug took full effect, Beatrice Ainsworth became like a madwoman. Julian Ramsey struggled to restrain her, getting scratched several times in the process. How much longer till the hospital? This Scarlett was too ruthless. Where did she find such a potent drug? Barnaby Ainsworth remained silent, but soon the car made a turn and stopped. By this point, Beatrice had lost consciousness, tearing at her clothes, shouting about the heat, her voice distorted. Barnaby carried her into the hospital. Patients in the night clinic stared, their expressions varied. Beatrice was finally calmed down after being restrained by several nurses and given an IV drip. Julian breathed a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Barnaby walking outside. He paused, then followed him. The smell of disinfectant in the hospital was overwhelming. Barnaby had stepped out for some fresh air. Julian walked up beside him. "This Scarlett seems like a completely different person, doesn't she?" Barnaby glanced sideways at him. "What are you trying to say?" Julian grinned. Although Scarlett didn't act kindly tonight, judging by the conversation earlier, it seems your sister wasn't exactly innocent either. Barnaby held a cigarette, lowering his head to light it. Of course, he knew Beatrice hadn't done anything good. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left so easily just now, letting Scarlett off the hook like that. Julian's impression of Scarlett was now more positive than negative. He still vividly remembered that night at 1, Scarlett on stage, drumming with fierce abandon. "I feel like after divorcing you, Scarlett changed completely. She used to be so gentle, now nobody dares to mess with her. You should probably talk to your sister, otherwise she's bound to suffer at Scarlett's hands sooner or later." Barnaby exhaled smoke, frowning slightly. "She dares?" Julian chuckled. "She didn't dare before, but maybe not anymore." Barnaby's eyes darkened. He took another drag from his cigarette, silent. Julian was right. After the divorce, Scarlett was like an untamed horse. The Scarlett of the past wouldn't even dare speak much. But now she dared to meet his gaze directly, fearless and unwavering. Seeing him silent, Julian didn't press further. "All right, I'm heading back." Barnaby glanced at him and nodded slightly. Julian's car was still parked at Night Feast. He had to take a taxi from the hospital. However, before reaching Night Feast, he spotted a familiar figure on the street. Scarlett, whom he had just seen less than an hour ago. Scarlett had mentioned grabbing a late-night snack back in the private room. He thought she was joking, but now she was actually eating at a street stall. Julian grinned. After the traffic light turned green, he had the driver stop the car, then walked back to the roadside food stall. Chloe looked up and saw Julian, her face falling. "Bad luck." Scarlett raised an eyebrow. "What's wrong?" Chloe didn't speak, just pointed behind her. Scarlett turned around and saw Julian standing right behind her. "Hi, Scarlett, fancy meeting you here." Scarlett raised an eyebrow. Seeing Julian about to sit down next to her, she pulled the adjacent chair away. Julian was a bit slow and missed grabbing the chair. "Well, since we ran into each other, mind if I join?" He was quite interested in their band, Summer Haze. Scarlett chuckled softly, finished the skewer she was eating, tossed the stick aside, and acting as if Julian didn't exist, looked at Chloe across from her. "Finished eating? Let's go." Chloe wiped her hands. "Let's go." The two stood up and left, leaving a completely ignored Julian behind. Julian was simultaneously amused and annoyed, feeling like a fool for getting out of the taxi. Just as he was about to hail another taxi, he saw Scarlett and Chloe, having just paid, being stopped by several drunk thugs. Julian watched, amused. This time, they'd have to beg him for help, right? Chapter 34. "What can you do?" Julian Ramsey put his phone away and sauntered over. Looking at Scarlett, who was blocked by the thugs, he raised his eyebrows. "Beg me nicely, and I'll get rid of these guys for you." Hearing this, Chloe burst out laughing. Scarlett also smiled faintly, pursing her lips. She turned her head slightly to glance at Julian, thinking that everyone around Barnaby Ainsworth seemed a bit off their rocker. It had been years since anyone had tried to block her path like this. The last time was back in middle school. She didn't expect to encounter this kind of situation again after more than a decade. Beatrice had been taken away by Barnaby earlier tonight. leaving Scarlett particularly irritable. Now these guys had the audacity to block her way. Scarlett looked at the man blocking her, her anger giving way to a wry smile. "And if I don't give you face, what can you do?" Julian, listening from the side, thought this Scarlett woman was truly reckless. These thugs clearly looked like seasoned troublemakers, yet she dared to provoke them, but Scarlett's earlier glance at him had been clearly mocking. Julian's temper flared too. He decided to let these two reckless women suffer a bit first, then he would swoop in as the hero. Yes, he was truly a magnanimous person. Even after Scarlett treated him like that, he hadn't left, still planning to step in at the critical moment. "Don't give face." "Then don't blame us for not giving face to you beauties either." Scarlett's smile vanished. As the man reached out for her, she swiftly grabbed his wrist, twisted, and bent it back. A man's agonizing scream pierced the night. Seeing their leader injured, the other thugs swarmed forward. Scarlett hadn't fought in a long time, and her mood tonight was terrible. She didn't hold back at all. In just 5 or 6 minutes, all 4 or 5 thugs were lying on the ground, defeated by Scarlett. Scarlett lowered her leg, turned, and gave the stunned Julian Ramsey a cool, sweeping glance, then looked at Chloe. "Chloe." "Hey, let's go." Chloe, who had stayed out of the fight, walked up, diligently massaging Scarlett's shoulders. Hard work, Scarlett pushed her hand away. "Too easy to beat. Boring." Julian Ramsey, overhearing this from behind, remembering his earlier words, Julian suddenly felt like an idiot. By the time Julian snapped back to reality, Scarlett, along with her car, had vanished. He quickly posted the short video clip he had just taken to his social media feed, adding the caption, "Goddess, true goddess, beating up a few ill-intentioned people," significantly improved Scarlett's mood. She returned to her apartment, showered, and prepared for bed. Before sleeping, she opened a bottle of red wine to help her sleep. She slept soundly all night, without dreams. Today was Sunday. She had plans with Chloe to go car shopping. Chloe arrived shortly after 8, driving her car and bringing breakfast. As soon as she entered, she pulled out her phone, chattering excitedly. "Scar, your heroic deeds from last night are all over everyone's feeds." Scarlett paused mid, patting her face. "You took the video?" Chloe shook her head. "Not me, it was that idiot dog, Julian Ramsey." Scarlett chuckled softly. "Oh, making a big deal out of nothing." Chloe snorted. "That idiot Julian last night, he actually told us to beg him for help. Ha ha ha." Chloe didn't hold back, directly commenting under Julian's post. "Still need us to beg you, Mr. Ramsey." Julian Ramsey, who had just woken up and saw the comment on his feed. Chapter 35. Only expensive cars suit them. Scarlett and Chloe headed to a high-end car dealership. As fate would have it, they ran into Beatrice's friends, Sophia Young and Joy Carter, browsing the more moderately priced section. Well, look who it is," Sophia sneered, eyeing Scarlett's casual yet chic attire. "Shopping for a car? Can you even afford the tires here, Scarlett?" Joy chimed in. Maybe she found another rich man to mooch off. Scarlett ignored their taunts, her gaze sweeping over the showroom floor before landing on a stunning, limited edition blue sports car displayed prominently. "That one," she said to the approaching sales manager, pointing towards the vehicle priced well over $2 million. The manager, recognizing Scarlett from the recent online buzz, the viral video of her drumming, and the subsequent fight, immediately adopted a respectful demeanor. "An excellent choice, Miss Davenport. This model is truly exceptional." Sophia and Joy exchanged shocked glances. To save face, Sophia quickly pointed to a nearby sedan. "We were actually considering this one," she stammered, indicating a car listed around $200,000. "Much more practical, don't you think?" Scarlett merely smiled faintly at the manager. "I'll take the blue one. I'll pay in full now." She produced her card. The transaction was completed swiftly. As the manager finalized the paperwork, Sophia and Joy stood frozen, their faces burning with humiliation. They couldn't possibly compete, nor could they afford the car they had pretended to be interested in after Scarlett's extravagant purchase. Without another word, they scurried out of the dealership. Chapter 36. What are you plotting now? "Scar, brilliant," Chloe exclaimed as they watched Sophia and Joy flee. "You shut them down without even breaking a sweat. A $2 million car. I bet they wouldn't dare buy that cheaper one now, after saying such nasty things. Their faces must be so thick." Scarlett glanced sideways at her friend. Let's go, time for lunch, of course. Now that she had her own car, she wouldn't need a ride from Chloe. Chloe, still relishing the image of Sophia and Joy's embarrassment, beamed. Let's go to celebrate your new car. I'll invite Lachlan and the guys too. Sounds good. They had all been close friends since their school days, spending countless hours eating, drinking, and having fun together. It was a happy coincidence that they were all in Linchester now. Getting together more often felt right. Lachlan Sinclair and Greg Lane were both free today, which was rare. After lunch, Chloe couldn't bear for the gathering to end, especially since adulthood made spontaneous hangouts difficult. So, she suggested renting a music studio. The brief performance at her birthday party had left her wanting more. Lachlan glanced at Scarlett. I have no objections. Greg wouldn't dare object either. I'm totally okay with it. Finally, the three of them turned their expectant gazes towards Scarlett. She smiled. I never said no. Chloe made the decision. They rented a music studio and spent the afternoon rehearsing the few songs they had written in their youth. The sunlight streamed in beautifully. Scarlett tilted her head back, drinking water, watching Chloe playfully roughhousing with Greg. A soft smile touched her lips. Days like these felt truly wonderful. Planning to take over the family business? Lachlan walked over, looking down at her. Scarlett put down her water bottle. Yes, besides, making money was quite fun in its own way. Lachlan smiled. Good thing. Scarlett raised an eyebrow, sensing an underlying meaning in Lachlan's words. Why? Nothing. Just then, Chloe ran over. Hey, Tanya just called me, asked for a favor. Scarlett looked at her with a knowing half-smile. A favor asked of you, why tell us? Hey, I can't do this alone, Scarlett already knew. She hummed. All right, spill it. What are you plotting now? It's not a big deal. It's just Tanya's bar opening tonight, and she wants us to go over and support her. Support her? Scarlett didn't believe it for a second. Just showing up for support wouldn't require Tanya to personally call and use the word ask. Chloe squirmed under Scarlett's gaze. Well, what she means is, she wants us to perform as guest singers for a night, draw some crowd. Didn't we go viral after that gig at one? Chloe naturally loved lively scenes. Besides, she hadn't performed in ages and was still buzzing from the last time. Now that there was an opportunity, Chloe was itching to grab her bass and hit the stage. But a band couldn't function with just one person. So, the key decision rested with the main character. She finished speaking and looked at Scarlett with pleading eyes. Scarlett had become rather reserved these past few years. Chloe genuinely wasn't sure if Scarlett would agree. Suddenly, Chloe felt nervous. What if Scarlett said no? Wouldn't she lose face? After all, just the day before yesterday, she had confidently promised Tanya, slapping her chest. No problem, you just build the hype, leave this to me. Scarlett lowered her head slightly, pondering for a moment. You're only asking me? What about Greg and Lachlan? Greg piped up. I'm fine with it, Scar. Beside him, Lachlan echoed the sentiment. I'm fine too. Scarlett, if she said no, wouldn't Tanya disown her as a friend? Chapter 37. Your ex-wife debuted? You had to hand it to Tanya Adams. She was bold. Opening a bar was one thing, but Linchester's two most famous bars were One and Night Feast, one in the south and one in the north, each dominating its territory, coexisting peacefully without interfering with the other. Tanya's stroke of genius or audacity was opening her bar, Cloud 9, directly opposite One. The location used to be a Western restaurant. Foot traffic was high, rent was expensive, and One alone already drew away a significant number of customers. After 5 years, the lease was up, the rent increased, and the owner decided not to renew. When Tanya heard, she snatched it up immediately. Rent of over $6 million a year, signed for 5 years straight, $30 million plus. If Tanya wasn't bold, who was? When Scarlett and the others arrived, Tanya was busy greeting friends. Seeing Scarlett's group, her eyes practically lit up. I was so afraid you wouldn't come. Whether my opening night is a success depends entirely on you saying this. Tanya ran over to Scarlett, hugging her tightly, almost calling her daddy. Especially you, my goddess sister. The short video clips of Summer Hayes' performance had caused quite a stir online. Scarlett and Lachlan, in particular, attracted a horde of fans simply due to their striking looks and charisma. Tanya had sunk over $40 million into this place. She couldn't afford a flop on opening night. Days ago, she had already started building hype, announcing that Summer Hayes would be performing live tonight. She had discussed this with Chloe beforehand. The reason she hadn't told Scarlett directly was because Chloe mentioned Scarlett had been dealing with a lot of personal issues lately. Tanya was dressed seductively tonight. As she hugged Scarlett, her ample bosom pressed against her. Scarlett raised an eyebrow. "You're having a wardrobe malfunction, boss lady. Hey, if you like it, I can let you see more later." Scarlett was amused by her shamelessness. "I don't have that hobby. Let go, I need to go up and test the sound." Hearing this, Tanya immediately released her. "Alrighty then, Miss Watch Your Step on the stairs." Chloe, standing nearby, got goosebumps. "Can you please act like a normal person, Tanya? What's not normal about me? People will think you're into Scar." Tanya glanced at Scarlett, who was already walking onto the stage. "With Scarlett's face and figure, if she were willing to swing that way, I think I'd be very okay with it." "Get lost if anyone's getting lucky, it should be me first." After bickering for a moment, Tanya surrendered. People were starting to arrive, and she needed these precious performers to make her night yours. Hurry up and go test your bass. Seeing Scarlett and the others already on stage, Chloe snorted. "Get ready to scream." Many people in the bar tonight had come specifically for Summer Haze. It was also the weekend, so plenty of university students had shown up to join the fun. Within minutes of the band starting, the area below the stage was packed. Tanya watched from the side as drinks flew off the bar. If she weren't the owner, she'd be waving glow sticks and screaming for Scarlett and the band. It was explosive compared to the frenzy here. One across the street was rather quiet tonight. Julian Ramsey sat in his booth for a while, noticing the crowd was at least half its usual size. He glanced at the silent Barnaby Ainsworth opposite him. "Barnaby, have you noticed how empty it is today?" Barnaby lifted his eyes slightly, glanced at him, but didn't speak. Julian, rebuffed, took out his phone, planning to invite Vincent North and the others. Just as he finished sending the message, he idly scrolled through his social media feed and discovered it was almost entirely filled with the same short video clip. Julian tapped on it. The first thing he saw was Scarlett drumming fiercely. He paused, then instinctively looked towards Barnaby. "Barnaby, your ex-wife debuted?" Chapter 38. Has Scarlett seen the light? Tanya's bar, Cloud 9, was absolutely buzzing tonight. People who came specifically for Scarlett and her band practically filled the place to capacity. Tonight's revenue alone could probably cover the next week's earnings. Julian Ramsey dragged Barnaby Ainsworth into Cloud 9, his eyes immediately landing on Scarlett on stage. She was simply too dazzling. Even though she was only wearing a white sweater and simple black jeans today, on stage, Scarlett held the drumsticks, tapped the pedal, nodded her head to the beat, radiating an aura of cool confidence. It was impossible not to notice her. This newly opened bar was packed. Julian couldn't even find a place to sit down. But the music was incredibly explosive, the atmosphere electric. Once inside, the esteemed Mr. Ramsey couldn't bring himself to leave. This wasn't the first time Barnaby had seen Scarlett on stage. Compared to the initial shock and sense of ridiculousness he felt the first time, seeing Scarlett on stage again today evoked far more complex emotions. Beside him, Julian was acting like a madman. Surrounded by deafening music and cheers, Barnaby wanted to leave, but after taking a single step, he stopped. He watched Scarlett under the stage lights. The white sweater should have softened her features, but at this moment, Scarlett was like a stage queen, commanding the entire venue, her raised eyebrows conveying a cool indifference that surveyed the world. He realized that this version of Scarlett was addictive. Upon this realization, Barnaby's face instantly darkened. He was perfectly lucid, fully aware that he and Scarlett were divorced. Since they were divorced, whether Scarlett was doing well or poorly now had absolutely nothing to do with him. Right, absolutely nothing. The band took a break mid-set. Julian remained hyped, turned his head, and saw Barnaby still there, somewhat surprised. "Ah, Barnaby, you're still here? I thought you'd already left. Scarlett is really incredible now, isn't she?" Feeling a bit regretful about divorcing her, Barnaby felt like he'd heard a joke. "Regret? What's that?" Julian paused. "Oh, right. You're not into this type. You like the innocent, White Lotus types like Lydia Ashton." Hearing that long, unheard name, Barnaby frowned slightly. "Who told you I like Lydia Ashton?" This question stumped Julian. "Isn't that what everyone thinks?" Barnaby's face darkened. "I don't like her." Julian was shocked. "Then why did you divorce Scarlett?" Although he used to look down on Scarlett, honestly speaking, Scarlett had been a perfectly adequate second Mrs. Ainsworth when married to Barnaby. This question annoyed Barnaby even more. She was the one who wanted the divorce. Julian clicked his tongue. So, does that mean Scarlett has seen the light and escaped the sea of suffering? Barnaby felt that Julian's mouth truly was incapable of uttering anything good. Being married to him, being the second Mrs. Ainsworth, when did that become a sea of suffering? The stage started heating up again. Julian ordered a glass of champagne and spotted a familiar face. He raised an eyebrow, quickly walked back to Barnaby's side. "Barnaby, look, down there holding that bouquet of roses, isn't that Fabian York?" Before Barnaby could answer, Julian answered himself. "It is Fabian York, it's late at night. Why is he carrying a bouquet of flowers around looking so flashy? Who's he trying to woo?" Barnaby wasn't interested in these matters. Compared to this, he wanted to leave this godforsaken place more. However, just as he turned to leave, waves of screams erupted from the crowd. "Wow, oh my God, is that the goddess sister's boyfriend? Going on stage to give her roses in front of everyone, so romantic beside him," Julian gasped. "Damn it, that scoundrel Fabian York actually has his eyes on Scarlett." Chapter 39. "Unnecessary. I consider him dead." Barnaby Ainsworth frowned deeply, turning back to watch Fabian York on stage hand the bouquet to Scarlett Davenport. The drumming ceased at that moment, the fervent music instantly losing its soul. Scarlett hadn't expected someone to come on stage and give her flowers at this time, much less Fabian York. Faced with the enormous bouquet of roses, Scarlett was forced to stop playing. She accepted the flowers. "Thank you." Fabian, with his charming eyes, smiled alluringly. "You're welcome. Flowers complement beauty. Please continue, I won't disturb you." With that, he turned and descended the stage. The entire exchange took less than 10 seconds, but elicited waves of screams from the audience below. Was this some kind of scene from a romantic drama? Scarlett watched Fabian's retreating back, raised an eyebrow slightly, placed the flowers beside her, picked up her drumsticks, and resumed drumming. 4 minutes later, the song ended, concluding Summer Hayes' performance for the night. Scarlett came down from the stage holding Fabian's large bouquet. Just as she stepped off, Fabian approached her. "Miss Davenport, care for a late-night snack together?" Fabian was notoriously skilled in the art of romance within their circle. Scarlett had no idea why he had suddenly taken an interest in her. She handed the flowers back, looking at Fabian with a knowing half-smile. "Apologies, Mr. York, I'm slightly allergic to pollen." Fabian clicked his tongue. "My mistake." He casually tossed the bouquet aside. "I definitely won't make the same mistake again." Scarlett gave him a cool glance. "I also don't have the habit of eating late-night snacks. Let me drive you home?" Fabian York was incredibly thick-skinned. Just as Scarlett was about to refuse, Chloe Sullivan beside her suddenly nudged her. "Barnaby and Julian are watching. I think agreeing would be better. Let that jerk Barnaby Ainsworth see that their scar wasn't lacking suitors." Scarlett looked up and, sure enough, saw Barnaby and Julian Ramsey in a booth not far away. Scarlett scoffed, glanced at Fabian. "No need, I drove here." She hadn't touched a drop of alcohol tonight, she didn't need anyone else. With that, Scarlett walked directly over to Tanya Adams to say goodbye. Fabian, tactfully, didn't follow. Chloe stood beside her, puzzled. Isn't Fabian a useful tool? Barnaby and Fabian are sworn enemies. Now that Fabian is pursuing you, even if you don't agree, couldn't you stir things up a bit just to annoy Barnaby? Scarlett took a sip of juice. Unnecessary. I consider him dead. Dead people don't exist. Why should she inconvenience herself just to annoy Barnaby? Chloe paused, then, understanding dawned, she praised, "You have a higher level of enlightenment beside them." Greg Lane chuckled. "When Scar gets ruthless, ordinary people really can't compare." Chloe agreed wholeheartedly. "That's right." Nearby, Lachlan Sinclair also smiled faintly. "This is the Scarlett we know." Scarlett walked up to Tanya. "We're leaving." Having performed for free for over an hour, Tanya was deeply moved and personally escorted them to the door, presenting each with an SVIP card. "A small token to express my gratitude." Scarlett accepted the card and smiled. "Does this card get us freebies?" Tanya grinned, unoffended by Scarlett's teasing. 50% off. Chloe heard this, jumped up, and playfully smacked Tanya. "Merchant." Scarlett put the card away, waved goodbye. "Leaving now, chat later." Just then, Julian Ramsay and Barnaby Ainsworth walked out of the bar. Julian waved and called out to her. Scarlett. Scarlett gave a cool glance, raised an eyebrow, and replied nonchalantly, "Mr. Ramsay, fancy meeting you here." With that, she got into her own car. As for the person next to Julian, from beginning to end, she hadn't spared Barnaby Ainsworth even a sideways glance. Chapter 40. What, you want to chase Scarlett too? The blue sports car quickly disappeared from sight. Julian Ramsay raised an eyebrow. How come I never noticed Scarlett had such personality before? Chloe, about to leave, turned back and looked at him. Because you were blind before. With that, Chloe's gaze swept over Barnaby Ainsworth. Before finally leaving, she spat fiercely in his direction. She just couldn't achieve Scarlett's state of mind, couldn't treat Barnaby like he was dead. Chloe shot Julian a fierce glare, took out her car keys, and got into her car. Forget it, not worth arguing with dogs. Julian was choked by her retort. He wanted to argue back, but Chloe and her friends had already gotten into their respective cars. He had no choice but to swallow his anger. Turning his head to look at Barnaby, he asked, "Scarlett didn't even glance your way just now. How does that feel, Barnaby?" Barnaby scoffed coldly. "Get lost." Julian. "No need to get angry just because you're embarrassed." Barnaby decided to ignore him completely, striding towards his own car. He would never go out with Julian Ramsay again. Second young Master Ainsworth, long time no see. Just then, Fabian York also emerged from the bar, looking at Barnaby with a half smile, asking provocatively, "There's a question I've always wanted to ask second young Master Ainsworth." Julian knew Fabian always liked to antagonize Barnaby. Showing up now, he was probably just trying to annoy him. "Did Mr. York not graduate elementary school? Why do you have so many questions to ask people all day long?" Fabian glanced at Julian, his smile unchanged, and asked Barnaby directly, "Which screw came loose in second young Master Ainsworth's head that you would divorce such a wonderful woman like Scarlett?" Barnaby's face instantly darkened. Looking at Fabian, he retorted, "I'd also like to know which eye Mr. York used that went blind, that you would fall for a woman like Scarlett." That comment went a bit too far. Julian nudged Barnaby with his arm, gesturing towards Scarlett, who had returned at some point and was standing not far away. "What?" Barnaby, irritated, looked up in the direction Julian indicated. Seeing Scarlett standing there, he couldn't help but frown. Scarlett had come back for her phone. She had gotten carried away having fun and left it behind. Her car had just turned out of the lot. Too lazy to reverse, she parked on the roadside and walked back. She hadn't expected to walk right into hearing Barnaby's harsh words. For a fleeting moment, Scarlett felt a sharp pain in her chest, but it was only a moment. Quickly, she composed herself and continued walking into the bar. Seeing Scarlett return and overhear the conversation, Fabian lowered his head and chuckled softly. "Well, that's perfect then. I assume second young Master Ainsworth won't mind me pursuing Miss Davenport." With that, Fabian got into his sports car nearby. He waited for Scarlett to come out before slowly driving off, following behind her. Julian watched Fabian's car follow Scarlett's until both disappeared from view. Only then did he avert his gaze and look at Barnaby. "Barnaby, wasn't what you said just now a bit too harsh?" Barnaby turned his head and looked coldly at Julian. "What, you want to chase Scarlett too?" "Damn it, Barnaby Ainsworth," that jerk Julian shot Barnaby a fierce glare, also getting angry. He turned, got into his own car, and drove off abruptly. Barnaby watched Julian's car disappear, then lowered his head and lit a cigarette. Amidst the swirling smoke, he recalled Fabian's provocative words, couldn't help but curl his lip into a cold sneer. What, is Scarlett really that great? Chapter 41. I don't regret marrying you, only not leaving sooner. Scarlett returned to her apartment. Her phone kept ringing. It was Fabian York. She considered it for a moment, then answered, "Mr. York, is something wrong?" "Miss Davenport, I just wanted to tell you Barnaby Ainsworth is a bastard. I saw your expression earlier." Scarlett chuckled softly. "My expression? What was wrong with it?" "You were hurt, weren't you?" Scarlett paused for a few seconds. "Mr. York, I don't know what issues you have with Barnaby Ainsworth, but please don't use me as a tool in your fight." "No, I'm genuinely interested in you." "Well, thank you for your kind intentions, but I currently have no plans to start anything new." Hanging up, Scarlett looked out at the city lights, an indescribable emptiness settling in her heart. Barnaby, do you truly believe a woman like me is unworthy? The next morning, Scarlett arrived at the office, full of energy. After months of effort, the bidding for the North District land plot had finally reached its critical stage. In the afternoon, Scarlett took Felicity Payne to the bidding site. Vincent North was already there. Seeing Scarlett, he smiled faintly. "Manager Davenport, I heard you divorced Barnaby Ainsworth?" Scarlett pursed her lips into a smile. "Is Mr. North that concerned with my private life?" "Just curious. How could you take charge of Apex so quickly after your divorce? Is there a story behind it?" Scarlett glanced at him, her smile not reaching her eyes. "Since Mr. North enjoys gossip so much, perhaps you should consider becoming a journalist." Just then, Barnaby Ainsworth walked in. Seeing Scarlett chatting with Vincent North, his brow furrowed slightly. Once the bidding began, Scarlett's offers were steady and precise. After several rounds, she and Vincent North were the final contenders. $930 million, Vincent North bid. $950 million, Scarlett stated calmly. The room erupted in murmurs. This price had already exceeded market expectations. Vincent North frowned at her. "Manager Davenport, are you certain your company can handle this price?" Scarlett smiled faintly. Mr. North seems overly concerned. Ultimately, Scarlett secured the North District land for $950 million. After the bidding concluded, Caleb Duncan found her, his face livid. "Scarlett, are you insane? This price will definitely result in losses." Scarlett turned and walked away. "Mr. Duncan, just wait for the financial report." Back in the office, Felicity asked nervously, "Miss Davenport, can we really afford this price?" Scarlett opened her laptop, pulling up a file. "Do you know why I could bid this high?" Felicity shook her head. "Because I recently acquired several smaller adjacent plots. Developing them all together won't result in a loss. It will actually be incredibly profitable." Scarlett pointed to the development plan on her screen. "I started preparing this right after I returned from Nanchang." Felicity's eyes widened in understanding. "So you deliberately let Mr. Duncan assign this project to you? He thought he was putting me in my place, but unknowingly handed me a golden opportunity." Chapter 42. Your World, I didn't get to participate 2 weeks later. Scarlett's development plan received approval from the city government, and Apex's stock price surged accordingly. Caleb Duncan couldn't sit still any longer. He confronted Scarlett directly. "Who are you, really? Who's backing you?" Scarlett chuckled softly. "I'm just Scarlett Davenport." "Impossible, someone without connections couldn't achieve this in just a few months." Scarlett looked at him and said slowly, "Mr. Duncan, sometimes a person's ability doesn't depend on their background, but on whether they're constrained." The news quickly spread throughout the business world. Scarlett Davenport's name began to be mentioned frequently in major commercial circles. That weekend, the Davenport family hosted a private dinner party in Nanchang. Scarlett attended as the guest of honor, making her first public appearance as the Davenport heiress. "Welcome, everyone, to my daughter's succession ceremony," Sebastian Davenport announced from the stage, smiling. "From today onwards, Scarlett Davenport officially becomes the heir to the Davenport Group." The audience gasped. It turned out Apex was merely a subsidiary of the Davenport Group, and Scarlett was the daughter of a true business magnate. Barnaby Ainsworth was among the invited guests. He stood in a corner, watching the radiant Scarlett on stage, his expression complex. During the dinner, Beatrice Ainsworth pulled a leaner Ainsworth over. "Scarlett, so you're the Davenport heiress. Why didn't you say so before?" Scarlett took a sip of champagne. "If I had said so, would you have believed me? If we had known you were the Davenport heiress, how could we possibly have?" "So, that's the truth," Scarlett interrupted her. "It wasn't my status that made me unworthy of the Ainsworth family, but your judgment that prevented you from seeing a person's true value." Beatrice was speechless, her face flushing red. After the dinner, Scarlett stepped out into the garden for some fresh air. Barnaby quietly approached her from behind. "Congratulations!" Scarlett turned around. Under the moonlight, her eyes were clear as water. "Thank you. Why didn't you tell me your identity back then?" Scarlett chuckled softly. "Does it matter? Whether I was the Davenport heiress or the daughter of an ordinary family, did it make any difference to you?" Barnaby fell silent. "You loved Lydia Ashton, and I was just a substitute." Scarlett looked directly into his eyes. "Barnaby Ainsworth, I don't regret marrying you, only not leaving sooner." Barnaby opened his mouth to speak but swallowed his words back. Scarlett, don't say any more, Scarlett smiled faintly. Your world, I didn't get to participate in it anymore. Chapter 43. You Deserve Better. A month later, the collaboration between Apex and Etha Corp officially launched, and Scarlett's business empire began to expand rapidly. Simultaneously, the North District real estate development entered its implementation phase. Scarlett's plan included not only commercial areas, but also ecological parks and cultural centers. The entire project was hailed by the media as the most innovative urban renewal case of the year. Meanwhile, Barnaby Ainsworth's side faced difficulties. Several companies that had previously partnered with the Ainsworths suddenly withdrew their investments, causing several major Ainsworth projects to stall. Barnaby investigated for a long time and finally discovered the shadow of the Davenport group behind these companies. Julian Ramsey called. Barnaby heard Fabian York is partnering with Scarlett on a new project. Barnaby's brow furrowed. What project? Seems like something in artificial intelligence. Fabian's tech company and the Davenport group joined forces, making a big move. Hanging up, Barnaby stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, gazing at the distant city skyline, his heart filled with mixed emotions. That night, he drove to Scarlett's apartment building but sat in his car for 2 whole hours, ultimately leaving without saying a word. A week later, the annual Business Leaders Summit was held at the Hilton Hotel. Scarlett, as a rising star in the business world, was invited to give a keynote speech. Business is not just a game of numbers, but an extension of value. Scarlett stood on stage, radiant. Behind every decision, there should be humanistic care and social responsibility. The audience erupted in applause. Scarlett's speech won resounding acclaim. At the cocktail reception, Barnaby approached Scarlett. Do you have time to talk? Scarlett glanced at him and nodded. They walked out onto the hotel terrace, the night breeze gently blowing. The recent troubles the Ainsworth family faced, was that your doing? Barnaby asked directly. Scarlett shook her head. Not me, it was market choice. Those companies already had issues with the Ainsworth's management style. I just offered them a better alternative. Scarlett, do we have to be like this? Like what? Scarlett countered. Business is war, isn't that what you taught me? Barnaby looked into her bright eyes, suddenly realizing the woman before him was completely different from the meek wife of the past. I wanted to tell you about Lydia Ashton. Scarlett cut him off. No need. That's all in the past. Scarlett, Barnaby, Scarlett looked at him, smiling faintly. I've let go. Leaving you was the best decision I ever made. Barnaby paused for a moment. I understand. Before leaving the terrace, Scarlett glanced back at him one last time. I wish you happiness, Barnaby Ainsworth. You deserve better. So do I. Chapter 44. Finally, we're both free. A year later, the North District project was perfectly completed, fully cementing Scarlett's reputation for business acumen. During that year, under Barnaby Ainsworth's leadership, the Ainsworth family business also navigated its difficulties and found a new path forward. One day, Scarlett and Chloe were in the summer haze rehearsal room. Lachlan Sinclair walked in, holding an invitation. Look, Barnaby Ainsworth is getting married. Scarlett took the invitation, seeing the bride's name, Yasmin Ramsey, from the Ramsey family. Chloe looked anxiously at Scarlett. Are you okay? Scarlett smiled. I'm fine, really. Are you going? Lachlan asked. Scarlett thought for a moment. Yes, let's go. After all, we did cross paths once. On the wedding day, Scarlett appeared in a pale lavender dress, breathtakingly beautiful. Beatrice Ainsworth saw her from afar, surprised, but eventually walked over. Scarlett, thank you for coming. Scarlett smiled. Congratulations to your brother. I apologize for everything before, Beatrice said softly. Scarlett looked at her and nodded gently. Let the past be the past. During the ceremony, Barnaby, dressed in a suit, exchanged rings with Yasmin Ramsey. As his gaze swept across the guests, it briefly met Scarlett's. In that moment, countless unspoken words seemed to flow between them, yet perhaps nothing was said at all. After the wedding, Scarlett quietly slipped away. Stepping out of the hotel, she took a deep breath, looked up at the blue sky, and felt incredibly lighthearted. Lachlan appeared beside her seemingly out of nowhere. Want to grab lunch together? Scarlett looked at him and smiled. Okay. They walked side by side under the sunlight, their shadows stretching long on the ground. "Do you remember what you said back in high school?" Lachlan suddenly asked. Scarlett looked puzzled. "What did I say?" "You said, the most important thing in life isn't finding the right person, but becoming the right version of yourself." Scarlett suddenly remembered, her smile growing brighter. "You still remembered." "I always remembered," Lachlan said earnestly, "and I've been waiting for you to become yourself." Scarlett looked at him, a gentle light flickering in her eyes. "Thank you for waiting." In the distance, Barnaby stood at the hotel entrance, watching Scarlett and Lachlan walk away. After a long silence, he turned and walked back into the wedding reception. Some people, once missed, are gone forever. And Scarlett had finally found her true self, no longer anyone's appendage, no longer living for someone else. She had become the protagonist of her own life, living out her own spectacular story. That evening, Scarlett returned home, stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, and watched the city lights twinkle. This city had once witnessed her tears and grievances. Now it witnessed her growth and transformation. She picked up her phone and sent a message to Sebastian Davenport. "Dad, I'm doing great." Putting down the phone, Scarlett smiled faintly. Finally, we're both free.